I'm Kate.
I'm Elle.
And we are down to Fae.
We're continuing our Queen of Shadows deep dive this week with chapters 17 through 24.
Because luckily or unluckily, like jury's still out, we are alive.
Woo!
Last week I was talking about, I'm going to tell my body that I'm not getting sick. It didn't listen. I tested positive for the flu the day after. So I'm going to try not to cough. I might sound a little bit weird, but this budget Cinderella made it to the ball. I was like, I don't care what, if I'm in a coma, roll me into that ball.
Yeah, guys, we made it to the fantasy ball last night. It was so much fun.
So much fun. I love when women, like it was just a room full of 99%. I love women. And everyone was dancing. The playlist was amazing. We got recognized. Someone was like, God. Are you that podcaster? And I was like, I am that podcaster.
We weren't standing near each other. And then later somebody was like, are you the other podcaster? I was like, yes.
Well, that's never happened. I mean, obviously we're not like celebrities, but for someone to actually come up to us that's listened is amazing. And then we have people reaching out about, hey, I'm coming to Nashville. Can we get together? And I'm like, fuck yeah, we can get together.
So
when are you available? I will come to your hotel.
You guys, if there's any of these balls near you and you have an opportunity, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yes.
It was literally just like, I mean, there were men there, so it's not like it was only girls. But
they had clearly been dragged there by their partner, and they were like dressed up as a character. They have no idea. Like one of them, you said you saw Rowan.
Yeah, there was one couple, and I'm sure we'll get into it. There's a famous dress for Aelin that I think is our next episode.
I love that dress too.
And like,
she made it herself.
Girl, yeah, she handmade the Aelin dress. It's got like a golden dragon down the back. It was so pretty. And then the guy that was with her was dressed as Rowan, and he had like the tattoos on the side of his face. We also saw people as Lysandra and Bryce and Amarantha.
I saw some Danikas with like the leather jacket and the little stuffed wolf.
And there was also Tamlin.
Yes,
I think
Tamlin was very
there.
brave walking around. There weren't a ton of cosplayers, which I've seen at other balls. They had people dress as specific characters, and I don't know if SJM's team is cracking down on that, and you have to maybe like pay for licensing, but I didn't see, there weren't a lot of cosplayers, which was fine. It was still, it was still a vibe.
It was a very full
really
event
fun.
too. So like it would have been a little bit crowded, but it was, I mean, it was majority women, but it was like, we joke about when we were talking about Aelin and Lysandra last week about just loving girlhood and just like talking shit, hanging out, eating our chocolates.
The playlist was amazing.
It was like just everybody's in their like fancy dresses and their crowns. We're loving we're there for ourselves.
Yes,
we're not trying to
look good
men.
for men. Like everyone was just, and you could walk up to someone and be like, are you Lysandra? And they're like, yeah, I am. They're not like, what are you talking about?
And it was just like a constant complimentary. Everybody was like, I love your gown.
Yes,
I love
it was
your
so
crown.
positive. It was feminine, so it was positive.
Yeah, and like as Caitlin was saying, or as Kate was saying, sorry, cut that. As Kate was saying, it was the best playlist. It was very millennial. There were some throwbacks, but they also had a lot of like fantasy music.
It was like Lord of the Rings remix and Never Ending Story.
They had Labyrinth at one point. I was like, yeah.
But then also Taylor Swift and like you said, like Akon and T-Pain.
Yeah, it was just, and Rihanna. It was so much fun, guys. So if you have a chance, don't miss it. Kate and I loved it so much that we're still wearing our jewelry this morning.
Oh, I know. I have my jewelry, and I don't know how you sleep in your makeup, but you do. So you still have your makeup done.
This makeup took so long that I was like, we're getting a repeat performance out of this before
the amount
I take
of
it off.
Money, which I love being an adult, and I can just like spend my money on what I want to spend it on. What I wanted to spend it on was going to a ball with all my friends. And
so fun.
I mean, like, I didn't think I was going to make it. A couple of days before, I felt so bad with the flu, and I was like, there's no way. I've been looking forward to this for a year.
You really rallied.
Yeah, and I went to go get an IV, and I had never had an IV before. And
Kate was like, I'm getting fluids. Well, I've downed all the Tamiflu I can find, all the cough syrup.
I was on so much cough. I was like, is this a dream? I'm on cough syrup right now. I don't even know if this is really happening. But when I went to get the IV, there was like an entire team. I don't know if it was like a football team or something, but they were all in there together.
Wow.
And so it's just this open room where everyone is sitting in chairs hooked up to IVs. And I'm just like in the middle of like, no joke, 20 guys.
That is interesting.
And I was trying, I'd never had
I wonder
the
who
IV.
they were.
I don't know. They weren't cute. I mean, it's fine. They weren't there for me. But I was like, "Don't pass out, like, don't freak out."
Don't embarrass
I'm
yourself.
not terrible with needles, I don't love them,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was like, "I am gonna do whatever it takes to get to the ball." And then, I mean, everything that could have gone wrong honestly did,
Oh,
including
no.
I like, the first time I went out there to dance, I did one little, like, hop, and my purse just broke, like, the strap just broke in half. It was this cheap thing from Amazon and fell to the ground.
I didn't even know it broke. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
I
I
had
missed
to
that.
tie it in a knot and put it back. I was like, "Whatever." $5 from Amazon.
Everything looked great, though, and they had several, like, vendors, like, little it was so
Oh, yeah,
sweet.
Elle spent all of her money.
I spent so much money because there were people that had, like, all kinds of bookmarks and, like, journals, and they'd come up with all like, different vendors had come up with all these fun things, and I ended up buying, like, little crystal
Mhm.
actually, I think it's a quartz to put on my desk that has a fairy on it and so many stickers, and
Everything was just
it was so
so
fun.
perfect for us, like, this specific kind of person.
So, like, you could walk around and they had aerial performers, so there were literal, like, acrobats doing these dramatic,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
dance performances in the middle
Mhm.
of the ballroom, like, it was so fun and so entertaining. So, again, if you guys find out something like that is near you and have a chance to go, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I'm also it's early, but I'm gonna recommend, I'm reading Blood of Hercules right now,
Ooh,
or I'm listening to it, which is reading.
close
Audiobooks
enough.
count as reading. And I'm really liking it. It's an interesting take on I love like, I'll fuck with anything that's Greek gods,
Fair.
and it's modern day, but she of course, it's an orphan who's being abused by her foster parents.
L
Classic.
classic.
And she finds out, like, she's taking this everyone has to take a test, and she's taking it's basically like an SAT, but it's I mean, 24 hours of taking a SATs.
Wow.
And you have to drop your blood on it, and she drops her blood on it, and it just sizzles through the paper, and everyone's like, so then someone comes and grabs her, and then she pops up in an arena, and Zeus is like, "Let the competition begin."
Oh my god, we love that trope. How
I love
fun.
that because yeah, it has you could look at it and be like, "This is just a bunch of tropes thrown together," but
Don't hate it.
I love those tropes, so why would I like, when people use that as a criticism of, "This just looks like a bunch of shit that Book Talk likes thrown into a book." Yeah,
That's why we like it.
why wouldn't I read that?
Of course.
So I'll keep you guys updated on Blood of Hercules, and then we have a book rec for A Dawn of Onyx, and then I also just finished Lights Out, which was very spicy. I'm obsessed with the narrator, Jacob Morgan, right now.
We have so much to talk about,
Yeah, we have a lot going on. It's all books, but
but that's what
a
we're here
lot going
for, so
on.
it's okay.
At the end of the last episode, Aelin, dressed as JoJo Siwa and disguised as an understudy in Madame Florine's dance troupe, she had just walked into the glass castle to rescue Adian, whose beheading is scheduled to be the entertainment at All Shadow No Daddy Dorian's birthday party. All Shadow No Daddy
No daddy.
Dorian.
Once the door to the ballroom opens, the dancers will flutter out like butterflies to perform the Handmaidens of Death. And I'm like, that's kind of ominous for a birthday
I
gathering, but I
know.
guess they're going to kill somebody there too, so maybe they don't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's the Handmaidens of Death TikTok dance from a popular symphony.
The dancers are stuffed into a servants' hallway, kind of like my poor little A cups were stuffed into that dress last night. I should have worn something over my nipples because I think they rubbed off.
Oh no.
And when I got home, so like my boyfriend had to get me out of that dress because
Yeah.
it was like that scene in Titanic where she's holding on and they're strapping her in.
Yeah.
Someone did that to me, and then it was like opening a can of biscuits. Like when he finally got it off, everything just came rushing out.
I didn't even realize I wasn't breathing deeply until somebody unhooked my dress. And I
You
was like,
take one deep breath and you're like,
wow.
wow.
But it was worth it.
So while they wait, Aelin is watching as platters and platters are taken out, including pear tarts.
Which Nezrin's father is known for.
Nezrin and Aelin see each other, and it's kind of like that scene of Charlie and Mac in It's Always Sunny when they see each other across a restaurant and they're like, but before Aelin can decide what she's going to do with this little development, it's showtime because she's wondering is she here for a reason? Like it's just a lot would be going through your mind. Is she here for a reason, or is she just literally working for her dad?
Well, like everybody has discussed the plan to an extent, but it makes you wonder if they've really discussed some of the nitty gritty details.
Yeah.
Because Nezrin's kind of looking at Aelin like, oh, like, almost like she didn't know she was gonna be in the
Yeah,
dance troupe,
but I thought
so
that she knew because we find out in this episode, so I don't think it's a spoiler, that Arabin was involved in a lot of this.
well, it sounds like I don't know. I don't know if Aelin, Nezrin, and Kale really discussed the details beforehand. I
Mhm,
don't know if, like, too much was left up to Arabin that they I guess they didn't have to know some of the details as long as everybody's in
mhm,
the right place at the right time, but
yeah.
it was interesting. The way they kinda had a moment of like, "Huh,
Hmm.
okay." Florine hands black glass flowers to the dancers, but none for Gretchen
They
Wieners.
sound very pretty, like, this whole setup, the whole party we've
The way
talked
they
about
have to
sounds
be so
great.
careful and cautious holding them, it definitely seems like they're delicate,
Mhm,
but there's none for Aelin. She puts her hand on Aelin's shoulder and tells her to watch and learn, definitely playing up that understudy part,
yeah.
and she says it loud enough for the guards to hear.
Florine tells Aelin she peeked in on Adian and he isn't at his best, but he's alert. Like, can you imagine if he were unconscious tied up there? There's no way that she would be able to drag
She
that
cannot lug
power
him
bottom
out of
out.
there.
She's also put it together why Arabin took such an interest in Selena. She's figured out who she really is, and I guess part of that is she just looked out and saw Adian and was like,
Maybe she always had an inkling that something was different
yeah.
because, again, Aelin is the only one at the Assassin's Keep that's female.
Mhm.
So that's unusual if she's known Arabin for a while. And then, of course, there's something different about Aelin or Selena anyway. So maybe she always kind of had just a question mark. And then seeing 80 and she was like, there it is.
That's another thing about Blood of Hercules is there aren't many women, I guess not I guess Olympians. I don't really know what she is yet. There's Olympians and then there's like the evil houses that are Hades and Aphrodite and a couple of others.
Oh, because they're
But
Olympians too.
yeah, they have fertility issues.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And so they need women, but they still like she's the only woman in this entire class. And I say woman, she's 19, the only girl. I hate that she's 19, whatever, coming of age. And so it's interesting that they still had her compete in something where they were just kind of it was like a massacre
Yeah. Well, if you're really
when they're
concerned about
desperate
holding on
for
to me, why would you put me in that
and then of
position?
course she gets paired. Sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but she gets they have like, basically sponsors. And her sponsors are like the Crimson Duo that are these really hot evil guys. They're like in the bad houses
Ooh.
and they hate her, of course. They're like, "You're weak, and we hate you." And you just know I'm kicking my feet, giggling, waiting for the moment where they start to become protective over her. And I don't know if it's going to be a love triangle
I
or
was
a
gonna say, is
why
this a reverse
choose, or like
harem?
maybe I'm reading it wrong and we haven't met the love interest. But yeah,
Again, I hope that means it's why I choose because it sounds fun. I'd fuck with it.
yeah.
So, anyway, back to Flooring. So we
Sorry.
got no, we were having so much fun talking about this book. Flooring says, when you shatter the chains of this world and forge the next, remember that art is as vital as food to a kingdom.
Is it? I mean, art is very important, but have you ever
People
been
gotta
starving?
survive.
People are dying, Kim. She also tells Aelin that no matter where she sets her throne, no matter how long it takes, Florine will be there and she will bring an ox cord.
Oh, I did love that though. I
Yeah.
was like, hit me right in the heart and the feels. With that, Florine instructs Aelin to give our king the performance he deserves and opens the door to the ballroom.
That's my favorite thing to say to people is have the day you deserve.
Yeah.
Aelin sees Adian and the king, and this is I mean, Selena lived at the castle with the king, but looking at the king, this is the man who murdered her family, murdered Marion and her people, but she's thinking to her, she has to hype herself up. I love that she's always having to basically say a mantra in her head. She is the heir of fucking fire. She is Aelin Fireheart, and she bows to no one, which I'm just realizing is also a Lord of the Rings thing.
It
The you
is.
bow to no. What does he say?
It's
My friends, you bow to no one.
It's, at the very end
Very
of Return
end.
of the King,
Yeah,
because
it's the
Aragorn
hobbits.
Aragorn walks out with his
Mhm.
crown, he's officially crowned King of
What
Gondor.
a man.
I know.
That was a man. Not the hobbits, but
Yeah, but
Aragorn, when he came through those doors, a capital M man.
yes, and the fact that he could humbly recognize what they did for everyone is amazing too.
I love that.
I
Now I
also
need to rewatch.
but as we were talking about Aelin and seeing the king and all he's done, like, yes, she was Selena and working in the castle before, but now if he murdered all of your family and your people and your last piece of family is right there next to
Yeah.
him, it's like, no, no fucking more.
Yeah.
She's over it. I mean, I get the hyping yourself up
Well,
though.
and what this is what
Getting out of
pisses me
her, like,
off.
her own mindset. She's like, "No, no,
It
focus, let's
it
do it."
pisses me off later because when Kale has one of his little Kale fits
Ugh.
and he's talking about, "You just pissed off the king, and now he's gonna take it." I was saving my last family member. I didn't do it just to embarrass him of just like, "You know what would be fun?"
But also, like, nobody wants to hurt anybody else, but there's always gonna be collateral no matter which choice you make. She's
Right.
doing her best, but, like, she's doing something for the bigger picture, so shut the fuck up, Kale. You should have thought about that earlier.
I
Just
put some Robitussie in my tea.
ooh, scissor.
Is it?
He's close enough.
A little Robitussie.
Kate's having a great afternoon.
This
Ad
might be a dream. I don't know if any of this is happening.
We'll find out later when we see the recording. Adian's power bottom is chained to a stool as he watches the dancers twirl between the dais and his execution platform. They're also tossing fistfuls of black powder into the air.
What I'm picturing for this scene is Black Swan, that makeup and, like, the tutus and everything, that's
Yeah.
the vibe I'm picturing.
Well, it's definitely the way that it's all kind of described for
Yeah,
sure.
and they're tossing the black powder into the air, except some understudy that Adian notices moving through the crowd, a tall understudy with broad shoulders, built like a
Thanks.
linebacker, which didn't need that.
He also,
Thanks.
he also said she's more heavily rooted to the ground. I'm like, did you just call me heavy? Sorry, keep going.
She's so centered and low to the ground. It's like, okay, I get it. That's funny.
Poor Aelin. It's okay. He did call her curvy, so thank you so much. I have to tell you, this is also like I was squealing reading this. Like, there's that moment where he finally, like, she looks
Oh,
at
I know,
him
this
and
whole
he
thing
looks
is
at
sweet.
her and he's like smiling. And I was like, fuck yeah. And then I was like crying tears of happiness because I was like, here we go.
Someone, me in the back, is like, "Why don't you guys kiss?" Just kidding.
But like,
Unless
you're
they want to.
far. What are they, first cousins? I'm like, you're far enough apart. No, you're not.
I mean, I'm from Alabama.
You know what? I think you can legally marry your first cousin in Tennessee. So,
Can you?
if not first, second,
Love is love.
you know, we celebrate everybody. Well, he notices that this understudy also has swirls and whirls, which
That
we talk
wasn't that.
about.
Some people had some fun tattoos last night that were like the swirls and whirls.
Oh, I know. People went all out. It was amazing. It was so great. But it's funny how often SJM specifically says swirls and whirls.
Mhm.
And he notices that she's got these markings on her skin. It's identical to the paint that's on the dancer's arms and chest, save for her back, where the paint is a little bit darker. And I'm assuming it's his face sight that helps him to notice the distinction because it's a
Oh,
little
you're
bit
right.
different.
I would be squinting like, "Is that an understudy? Was that a linebacker?"
I would just be watching her because she's doing weird things. I'd be like, what are you
I
doing?
know. This understudy, who is she?
Who is she?
Vanishes behind a curtain and emerges less than a minute later with her skirt reversed into a cape. And using advice from Lysandra, she's altered her demeanor into a swaggering man. And they are moving closer and closer to Adian. And I kept giggling while I was reading this because one, when I picture this, I'm picturing she's the man. And the whole thing is just kind of silly. Like the fact that she goes behind a curtain and then walks out like a man.
Like her swagger just changed the whole vibe.
I would laugh if I were Adian.
I mean, it's funny because he's noticed the distinction, but it's actually kind of amazing because it seems like somebody recognized her as this man. So that's
Right.
probably going to come up again.
Yes.
Again, like she's so good. Someone in the crowd thinks that they recognize who he is. who this is.
The dancers raise their glass roses above their heads, drawing attention away from this dancer turned nobleman who is now close enough for Adian to see. Even disguised, Adian would recognize those turquoise and gold eyes anywhere.
Oh,
it
and I
makes
know.
me like later when he talks about his pillow being damp.
Oh
from
my God, I
tears.
was crying. Every time I reread it, like I get so excited and I've reread it several times. I even reread it this morning because I like want to be on top of it when I talk to you guys about it. And I was like, don't cry off these
Don't
effing,
cry.
I've got jewels on my face. Stop it. Like I just,
I don't know how you slept with tiny jewels that like when I got home, so I had never had fake eyelashes or done like jewels around my eyes. I was pulling everything off. Like I think I took off half of my actual eyelashes just trying to get them off.
Well, I actually a lot of times during the week, just for a side note for the listeners that probably don't care, I don't wear makeup during the week. Like, when I go to work, like, my
She's not
cowork
like other
I'm
girls.
not here to impress my coworkers, I don't care. But so, like, with how much is on my face right now, I didn't wanna take it all off and then do makeup again today, so I was like, "This took so much work. I'll sleep on my back. I will figure it out
I
because 'cause I'm
don't know how you
keeping
sleep
this."
on your back. I sleep on my stomach or I will be, I don't know, attacked. I just feel very vulnerable
Um,
on my back. I have
I
sleep paralysis when I sleep on my back too.
Well, I used to sleep on my stomach consistently, and I still do sometimes, but it started to, like, give me wrinkles, so I'm like, "Ooh."
Are you telling me I have wrinkles?
No, we're also not the same age, so you look great.
I am a full 2 years younger.
I can tell. But, yeah, so I've been practicing sleeping on my back.
So that's where we stand on sleeping.
But, yeah, I just start this whole scene there's just certain scenes when you read through these books that you get so hyped that, like, I'm excited to go back and reread it.
This is a very exciting scene to read because it's amping up to a crescendo
Yes, and
and
everything
you
is
can
about to
feel it.
change and alter for the course of, like, the court and these
Mhm.
characters, and I loved it so much. So, Adian has just recognized who it is, he gives her, like, a smirky grin. The dancers shatter their roses on the floor, and the room fills with smoke, and then it's total chaos. So, Aylin's using this opportunity to start slashing towards Adian as Florine is ushering out her dancers as fast as possible.
And I think I said this in the last episode, but is it kind of weird how she went from struggling to fight Kane or, you know, she was getting through the tournament and she was clearly good and the best, but it wasn't like so easy. But
Well,
now she can just slash through all of these guards, including Valg
I
guards.
do wanna remind us that when she was doing the tournament, she had just been in a slave labor camp for a year. So she's emaciated.
Well, even Rolf got a couple in on her.
I know, you're right. Well, that's
I don't
an
want to take away. It's just
I
sometimes
know, you know what, as you say that though, because Assassin's Blade, she kinda got one-upped in almost every one of the little chapters, and we were like,
oh,
I
what's
thought you're supposed to be
happening?
the best."
Well, it's not a criticism because I would never criticize SJM. Someone said I looked like SJM. Can we talk about all the so I finally got a couple celebrities that didn't piss me off, like Lisa Kudrow.
I don't know why you're so mad about that one. I think she's gorgeous, but you do actually look a lot like SJM.
Someone said SJM and I was like, "Okay, I will take that one.
And,
I will
like,
take that over Lisa
I
Kudrow."
hadn't thought about it, but the minute they mentioned it, I'm like, "You really do." Like, you're
I think
obviously
it's
a
the
redheaded
long
version,
face.
but
Like, I think we have because Lisa Kudrow was like, "It's the long face." You can just say it.
you don't have a long face, but I do think your face shape and your eye shape is very similar too.
Well, the thing about what I was
And
gonna
your
say, the
coloring, honestly.
criticism is sometimes she tells us rather than shows us that Aelin is the best at everything. It just and
Yeah.
that's why it feels so sudden. Like,
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden she's just cutting through 10 plus guards at a time by herself, and you're like, "Oh,
But also, I think the fact that she is no longer hiding a part of herself, the
that's
fact that
true."
she had all that time in Winland to train with Rowan, not
Mhm.
just her muscles, but her magic, I think it really kind of
Like,
brought her all
unlocked.
together, if that makes sense. Like, cause she was like she kind of fragmented different parts of her personality to
No,
play
you're
different
right.
roles before. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just kind of drawing the conclusions that by,
Mhm.
like, accepting everything about herself,
She,
not
like,
hiding from her
stepped into
past.
who she is.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
honestly, it reminds me a lot of The Drop. Like, when we saw her,
Yeah.
um,
Oh,
back
yeah,
at
Bryce.
well, like, like, back at Miss Word, when she's at, like, her low point with the 3 Valg princes around her, she has a moment where she's, like, at her bottom, like,
Mhm.
I guess her lowest point, and she's seeing everything from her childhood and, like, starts kinda coming back up into herself. I feel like
Mhm.
it changed things. It made things a little bit easier for her to not hesitate. So, I know it is very different from what we saw in Throne of Glass, though. So
But we
you're
did see Bryce last night, and she was like, "I'm here celebrating the drop," and I just love that we were in a room full of people that, like, we all get those
They
references.
understood. She was so cute. She had, like, a light up, like, star sitting between her boobs, and she could change the brightness of
'Cause
it.
it got
So she was
brighter, and they
full
were like,
Bryce.
"It means that she thinks you're attractive."
We were like, "Thank you so much."
It means so much when a guy says I mean, not that, like, guys are running up to me and being like, "Lisa Kudrow, you're so hot," but if a guy says it, I'm like, "Ew, like, what do you want?" When a girl says you look gorgeous, I'm like,
It just
"Thank you."
it hits different because we
It hits
mean it for
different.
different reasons.
Yes.
I love it. So Adian is not just sitting on his stool anymore. Also, he's like not waiting around for this.
Mhm.
Despite being emaciated and sick and exhausted, he has used his stool to impale 3 of the guards around him.
That's insane.
He was like, "Okay, sweetie."
It's go
It
time.
was literally like, he's like, "I see you. Watch
Mhm.
this. I'll help."
She goes for the chains around Adian's ankles, and she feels a jolt that makes the eye of Elena flare. And speaking of Elena, like, where is that ghost bitch? We're in the castle right now. Couldn't she be helping?
I don't know. Maybe she
I mean, I know that
was
it took a
biding her
lot for
time.
her at the end of Throne of Glass to help, but there are times where I'm like, could could she be doing more?
Maybe it does. Yeah, as you say that, I wonder if because in Throne of Glass, there was so much more with word marks and
Mhm.
open gates that it was easier for her to appear to help.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I mean Aelin no, not Aelin, Nehemia actually may have let her in because she
Yeah,
was yeah, that
because
makes
they were
more
meeting in
sense.
secret too, so I don't know.
Okay. But Aelin has to cut open her forearm, and she has to cut herself a lot in this scene, and she just keeps doing it. I'm anemic. I would be passed out on the
She
ground.
has so many scars at this point, she's like, "I don't care."
Whatever. And she uses word marks to unlock the chains thanks to whatever the king put a spell on the chains, and she has to use word marks in her blood to get them off of Adian.
Yeah, the king was not playing around either. They had the
He was prepared.
word marks all around the different doorways, and then he clearly did something to try to make it very difficult for her to even, like, touch the chains to
Mhm.
help the escape. Speaking of, the king is yelling, but the crowd is too panicked. Everyone is running around, and they're unable to see because of the smoke, so it's just chaos.
Well, Arabin is a grooming piece of shit, but he knows how to put together a plan. Which, if you think about like that character, he's always steps ahead of everyone else. So it makes
Yes.
sense he'd be good at putting a plan together. And in theory, I feel like he'd be really good at sex because of that.
I think
If he wanted to, if he like really put his mind and he wanted to bring you pleasure, he could. He
I
just
feel like
probably wouldn't.
well, he would bring you pleasure, I feel like, to, like, pat himself on the back.
Yeah.
Like, it would be for his own ego. He'd be like, "I'm so good at this."
Yeah.
But I could see him because he seems so detail oriented. I could see
Yes,
him being
exactly.
good at it, even if it's only to flatter himself, like a true narcissist. I
Well,
could
there's
see that.
nothing worse than, like, a really hot guy that's bad at sex because there's someone and
Such a
I
letdown.
won't name any name okay, CT from from the real world. I know someone that hooked up with him.
Oh, no.
I'm not saying she got PV from him, but she has HPV now, who doesn't? But it like, he wasn't good at sex.
Oh,
I
no.
know, and, like, do you remember the backpack scene from the challenge where he, like, picks up Johnny Bananas and he's just, like, walking and you're like, "That guy would be good at
He
sex."
was so fit for that, like,
And now he's
when
in
all
The
that was
Traitors.
happening.
When I was sick this past week, I watched all 3 seasons of The Traitors,
Oh,
and he's on it.
interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk
Why
about
did
that too.
I don't know why I started talking about CT.
Because
Bad at sex, okay.
yeah, we expect better of you. Aelin throws the Eye of Elena over Adian's head, then grabs the Sword of Orinth, which is her father's sword. I
It's
had
very
another moment
symbolic.
when she had a moment of like, how did this get here? Which obviously she'll find out when talking to Adian
Mhm.
later. And they start pushing their way through the crowd toward the patio windows.
Poor Adian was just actively trying to die, so he's weak, but his hands are still chained. Like she unlocked his ankles, but his hands are still chained. And I don't know, Aylin's just dragging him through the panic crowd. I don't know if you've ever tried to run without using your arms, but I would die from embarrassment alone.
I know you're gonna have to hold me
Can you
upright.
picture like my hips would be going?
But like, you know what? Even if he had use of his arms, I feel like with the panic crowd, people were probably bumping into them
Right.
constantly. So she was like, we don't have time. I'll
He's
get to
just
this.
trying to stay upright.
Yeah, and then, of course, Aelin amps it up even more by yelling, "Fire!"
God.
So people are, like, shattering the windows, they're freaking
I'm
out.
picturing that scene from The Office when she's like, "Save Bandit!" And then he's like, "Is the fire shooting at us?"
So silly. But it worked out great because everybody's throwing water around, assuming there's fire, and that's how they get through the word marks on the glass patio doors.
Mhm.
So she pushes Adian into the garden, and there's a line of guards that block the entrance to the hedges.
I know that she is trying to get them out as quickly as possible. She
Yeah.
is a little harsh with Adian. She's like, "Don't get in my way." And she becomes a whirling cloud of death, a queen of shadows. I do love when a book's name is actually in it.
Yeah.
Chaos men run up and they see what's going on and they're like, and that's none of my business. And they just go the other way.
I feel bad a little bit for Adian, but she's so over, like, I guess maybe with Rowan and then
Mhm.
just some of the territorial bullshit she saw in Winland. She's like, "Don't even start with me. I've
Yeah.
got it. Like, don't try to, like."
Adian's like, "Girl, I'm just trying to stand up.
I
I'm."
Yeah, I'm just trying to get out of here. But yeah, she's got a moment where she's like, "I can take care of myself."
Mhm.
So Aelin and Adian run around the hedges.
Just like her and Kale used to do when they were training in book 1, and it's just so wild to think back to that ballroom that we were just in is where an assassin was dancing with sweet Dorian, and she fell in love with Kale in this castle. Like, there's so much character development from obviously Selena to Aelin, but also from the captain of the guards to rebel Kale. Like, just so much has happened.
Yeah, it's, like, wild to be back home,
Mhm.
basically. Aelin slashes into her wrist and more slashes, and uses word marks to unlock Adian's manacles, just
God,
as
Adian and manacles.
I know, so, like, if we get to, like,
Maybe
choose
we
this,
keep them.
Adian and Dorian tied up. Like, we talked about Dorian last week, I'm like,
Oh my
"Yeah,
god, the 2 I
what if
fully
I
think
have them both
that
there?"
Adian would power bottom you into the next room.
I'm not mad at that.
Like, can you oh my god,
Do what you've
Dorian
gotta
top,
do,
Adian
sir.
bottom?
You know, it's not to keep getting sidetracked. I'm not sure exactly what I've done to my algorithm, but one of the
What did you
video
do?
one of the videos that I was, like, scrolling through this morning, it may have been on I don't know if it was Instagram or TikTok, but there was a girl that was like, "How much does Henry Cavill weigh?" And then she put all these weights on her hips and was, like,
Oh, that's
lifting that
I
weight.
used to see a guy on TikTok a lot that would be like like, girls would be like, "A guy can't lift me," and then he would do, like, hip thrust with
But
that
it
amount of weight.
it immediately I was like, "You power bottom whoever you have
Yeah.
to. I support it."
But he sends so Dorian finds them.
Yeah, all shadow, no daddy Dorian finds them.
But it's not sexy, unfortunately. There's no power
No.
bottoming. He sends a wave of black lashing out at them, just like the Valg princess did at Mistward. The Eye of Elena deflects from Adian, and the word marks Aelin painted all over her body using a mixture of ink and blood. Does she have any blood left? Like that is what protects her, but it does push her back a step, so it's not going to hold forever.
It's wild that they were even able to do that with the waves of black coming at her.
Well, also LOL because Adian is like, Aelin, that's not Dorian. Like, yeah, no shit.
Thanks, got it. The Valg Prince sends another wall of black power, and Aelin's skin tingles as if the blood words are flaking off with each hit.
They need to get the fuck out of there. They can't just stand here fucking around with not Dorian all day. They need to run. So Aelin unsheaths the sword of Orinth and asks, she begs Dorian, just give me one sign that you're still in there. And I know I've talked about not being happy with how quickly she jumped to killing baby girl, but in this moment, Aelin's priority is Adian. Not just that, but she's the queen of Terrasen. Just think about how much is on the line. Like, I respect that she gives Dorian any time because she's putting it's everything on the line. If she dies, think of like it would be like a snowball effect.
Well, and I mean, we've talked before about how she could have taken more time to maybe look into something to help Dorian. And even after this, she could continue to try to look into things. And I don't know that she does,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't go looking for him. She was not trying to harm Dorian. She was
Right.
trying to focus on Adian.
Yes.
But if you're going to cross my path and I don't have a way to save you right now, it's about so much more than myself
That's
and
a
like
good
what I want
point.
right
This is
now.
self like if I were her defense attorney, it'd be like this is self-defense. She did not seek out Dorian to kill him.
Well, because it's if you look at it from like a broad perspective, it's having to kill one person versus saving thousands. I don't know how big Terrason was, maybe
Yeah.
millions of people. So I feel awful. You're my friend, potentially trapped in there. But like, if you're going to push me, I'm going to have to choose something over you
Yes.
because it's about so much more.
If it's me or Adian versus you, I'm gonna have to choose. Like I'm choosing us.
Yeah. So, like, while she's begging for this sign, just one sign, she's also using her foot to trace a symbol in blood on the
You're
gravel.
telling me he doesn't notice that? Do you know how
Well,
loud gravel is when you crunch around?
I know. Well, I'm like, maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought she just seemed anxious or afraid. I don't know. Because
There's
it's really a Vogue prince. It's not really Dorian noticing anyway.
what? There's no hesitation or sign of Dorian still being in there, which is kind of weird because when Adian sees him in the dungeons, he notices Dorian Recoil?
I really think if she had said Sorsha's name, it might have changed things a little bit because we
She
see
doesn't know, she'd be like, that one
oh, yeah, the
girl that helped
healer.
us sometimes."
Well, and I mean, because we do hear later that Dorian is still in there and allegedly he was fighting, but I'm like, "You didn't
Mm.
fight very hard."
He was fighting me because he was like, "Kill me, like, please fucking kill me."
Or say, "If you're not gonna save me, kill me." Yeah.
But he lunges at her, but he freezes over that word mark that she was using her toe to, I guess, like, do an outline
Yeah, so
in the
again,
gravel.
she's doing her best to give him a little bit more time, but she's only got moments. It's just enough to force him to his knees and raise
Mm.
the sword over his head.
And she does see this as a mercy for Dorian. Once we're in his head, he is begging for it. I would
Yeah.
make Dorian beg for it. But the Valg prince is also raging in a language that Aelin obviously doesn't know. But I've always wondered all these languages in the mass verse, like which ones are the same?
Yeah.
Or is he talking? Is it can word marks be spoken out loud? Like, is it
Well,
like a dead language?
like yeah, where
You
it's,
know,
like, written but not spoken.
yeah, can they speak it and we just can't? So that's what they're talking.
We've also mentioned before, is it the same language as the Princes of Hell
Mhm.
from, Crescent City?
Mhm.
So many questions. Just as Aelin's decided that she has to do this for Dorian, an arrow hits her sword, and by the time that Aelin sees Nezrin, she already has another arrow pointed at Adian.
Arabin told Kaol Aelin would try to kill Dorian today, and I guess he tried to warn Aelin with the pear tarts comment, but I don't why did he tell Kaol at all? Like was this just to cause chaos and to widen the rift between them? What was his
But also, how did he know?
motivation?
How did he know that?
How could he have
How did he
possibly
phrase that to her?
foreseen Dorian running out and intercepting them? Did he warn Dorian? Like how
And I think we talked about that a little bit last week with, like, the pear tarts, like, being a warning, but I'm like, was Arabin really just taunting Aelin? Because, yeah, he told you, hinting at it, but he basically told you that he also set you up
Mhm.
because he's the one that started all this with Kale. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know his motivation in this, why he wanted to keep Dorian alive, or if that was just it was literally just to pit Kaol
Or
and
he's just
Aelin against each other.
trying to earn the trust of Kale so that he
Why?
can use him later. Because Arabin's always using people,
That's
so
true.
there's no telling. Part of Aelin is obviously relieved that Nezrin stopped her because this was her, like, one of her best friends. She doesn't
Mhm.
want to do this, but she has seconds left before the ward that's holding the Spalg fails, so she grabs Adian and they run.
Aelin drags Adi into a stone wall, already word marked in blood, and two men help pull them up and over, and they grunt at the weight, like again, kind of like when he's talking about, is that a linebacker coming through the crowd? I don't need, like, if you pick me up and you grunt, put me down.
Well, at least they're grunting at Adian, not Aelin.
And then she's like,
She's underneath him like, "Shove," and he's just like, "Poor Adian."
I know.
So emasculated. He's like, "Okay, I know I'm hurt, but calm down." She keeps tugging him,
I
throwing him,
know.
pushing him. Aelin wraps a cloak around Adian and they run again.
It's a nightmare for Adian. His cousin is having to prop him up. She is risking her life for him, and he's always seen himself as her protector. And so now he's slowing her down, and you know that's just killing him.
I do love though that, like, I mean, sure, it doesn't help him that she's like, "Hurry up, you hulking ass,"
I
but
know.
she's not going to tiptoe around this. Like, I'm trying to save your life. Get
Yeah.
your shit together.
Well, once they're a few streets away, Aelin goes full method again, and this time she's this whole thing is just funny because I don't know, maybe she's really good at it, but it just feels
How
silly.
quickly they're like changing characters.
Now
Yeah.
she's a drunk citizen celebrating the prince's birthday until a black carriage pulls up and Aelin shows Aiden inside where Lysandra is waiting.
I mean, they planned this so well. Like, there's so many details and the timing has to be just right.
Right.
Lysandra tells them that there are DUI checkpoints, so Adian has to crawl into the luggage compartment where he
Gosh.
clearly doesn't fit, bless his
And he
heart.
was just told he's huge and now I have to get in here?
But also, like, Aelin doesn't know where he's hurt, but if you think about all the stitches and his recent illness, it's like, ooh, squeezing him in somewhere. That's
I
gotta be so
know.
awful. Aelin okay. Aelin switches characters again, using a rag to wipe away the blood and changing into a long sleeve dress.
I don't know why my mind went here when you said that, but have we talked about Lizzie Borden? Because so I last year for my birthday, my poor boyfriend, I was like, I'd like to go to the Lizzie Borden house. And that's what we did for my birthday. And I couldn't get a reservation. I wanted to stay the night. and you can stay the night there. It's like a bed and breakfast, I guess.
Geez, like a haunted house.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get any sleep, but we did do the tour and we, like, pulled up all the crime scene photos, and a lot of the furniture and stuff is still there, whatever.
Dang.
But what doesn't make sense about that is so there was only a tiny drop of blood found on her. If you were using a hatchet on 2 people, you would have so much blood splatter, and they don't have hair dryers.
Oh my god, it would've been
They
in
don't
her
have
hair.
washers and
It
dryers,
would've
like,
been
there's
everywhere.
no way that she could have got everything off and washed her hair and then dried it and then fixed it again in that time, but it also could not have been anybody else. Like, that case is so like, it could not have been Lizzie Borden, but it couldn't
Mhm.
have been anybody but Lizzie Borden.
Well, with all the different guards that Aelin just killed, like, yes, she may have got, like, a bottom layer of stuff that's flaking off, so maybe it's all not directly on her skin, but I'm like, "We
She's
really
got s
scrubbed blood off that fast?
Yeah.
It's impressive."
But by the time the Kingsguard yanks the door open, it just looks like 2 ladies with fans being horrified. They're like, "Well, I never."
"I am not believing this. Excuse why are we Southern Belles?
I don't know,
Excuse
whenever I
me."
go into character, I'm like, "Well, I say, I never."
I just am not believing this. One of the men notices the tattoo that marks
And
Lysander as
he's
a
a dick about
courtesan.
it.
It's God, they're such assholes. And she tells them that they're on their way to an appointment.
A dick appointment,
Excuse
excuse
me?
me.
Yeah, mind your business. I'm busy. They search the rear compartment, but thank God they don't search inside the carriage.
Once they're all clear, Aelin opens the compartment where Adian has vomited
I'm
and
like,
just
how
been
did you miss
laying in
that?
there with it,
Oh,
and they jump into another carriage where Chaos Scowl is waiting.
fuck off, Kale. I'm going to push Aiden into you. Catch him. Because she literally
I
is like,
feel like
catch.
Chaol isn't worried enough about Adian, like, y'all were
Oh
bros.
my god, we could vent more about that as we go along, like, with the chapters that are coming up, because he's like, "I could stop and check on Aiden, and I won't, because 'cause I'm a
Yeah,
little
because 'cause I'm
bitch."
mad.
The carriage takes them to an empty street, and Aelin and Kale walk the next several blocks to the warehouse, trying to carry this sagging Aiden, but poor
This
Aiden,
hulking
he's
ass.
like, "I can't anymore, like, you have to help me."
Chaol takes Adian into the guest bedroom, and Aelin has a moment. She just kind of like sits in the bathtub with no water and disassociates because all of that was like so many things could have gone wrong.
Well,
That
it's
she's
like,
probably still like, did we just pull that off?
now that you have a chance to, like, let the adrenaline drop, it's
Yeah.
just like, it's exhausting how amped you were and how scared and anxious, you know?
And she bathes and puts on one of Sam's shirts and a pair of his boxers and goes into the living room where Chaol is sitting.
You
It's
know?
so interesting. I mean, I think she's doing it as a comfort. It's
Yeah.
kind of like when you wear someone's shirt, like getting a hug from them. You know, like it smells like him and
Yeah.
whatever. But then Chaol is just sitting out there.
Which we never hear Kale's thoughts on that, but I do wonder if he's like, "Those
Those
aren't my
boxers are
boxer
there,
shorts.
yeah.
Whose
Or
are those?"
or because he had spent so much time at the apartment that he like knew that Sam's stuff was there, maybe.
Well, he just for how little respect he shows for her life before, I don't know. Maybe he understood, maybe he didn't. Fuck Kale.
All the things that he is shitty about, he doesn't ever poke the Sam part.
Yeah, which I guess I can respect because he does, hit below the belt a few times.
Mhm.
I love that Lysandra is already there helping. Like, she was like, "I will see you guys soon. I will be there." And she's
Mhm.
in there bathing Adian.
This is
That
just
sounds
not
sexy.
his day because I don't think it is sexy. I think he is quietly dying inside, like, "Please just let this day be over."
This is not how
I
I
don't know
wanna
if
be
you've ever
seen.
been bathed, but it is not as sexy as, like, you want it to be.
No, I have never been
I
bathed.
don't even like showering with people because someone's always cold. Unless you're rich and you have, like, multiple sprays or something, someone's always out in the cold. I also don't look cute when I shower.
Well, if you're actually showering and cleaning your bits, like, it's not like, I'm just
I'm
taking care of
like
business, mind your business.
I'm hunched over like a troll, like yeah,
I'm
I'm not
hoping
that's not what I want people I also, like, I
I'm
don't know,
taking
I
it
hunch a lot, and I don't want anyone to see me hunch naked because I hunch, I, like, clean my feet, which I know men never do, but I'm, like, washing my legs and everything, no one needs to see me folded
actually
naked.
bathing is not the sexy
And I
part,
have a
that's for
cough
sure.
right now, so I would be folded, coughing naked. Like, just picture it.
It's just that's a lot to take in. Thank you for that visual. I'm picturing this more as, like, Kale has, like, gotten the bloody clothes off of Adian, and Lysandra's just sponge bathing him at the bed.
Yeah, that
Hopefully,
makes
she's not
sense.
getting into his major business.
Oh, I'd be like, "We gotta clean this dick.
"Hi, I know we haven't met yet. This is
Let's see
not how
this
I
power
wanna present
bottom."
myself." Adian's probably passed out, bless his heart, because
Mhm.
he was, like, half dead when they got him.
Well, we know I get weird about like, even when watching Outlander, I'm like, "No, we smell bad," because the Blood of Hercules, when she pops up in this arena, like, she is poor, poor, like, they live in a cardboard box
Oh
because
god.
someone tore their trailer down, and so they don't have a shower. So, like, when she goes to school, everyone makes fun of her, and that was ki not triggering, but I was the kid who was in a smoker's house, so
Yeah.
I always smelled like smoke, and I was so self-conscious about that. So she's always being made fun of because she smells poor because she's poor. And then she pops up in this arena and there's all these Olympians
These hot,
and
prepared
she's like
men.
dirt caked under her nails, like greasy hair, and I'm like, "No,
This is not how
we
I'd
don't
like to
look good."
I'll say this is not how I'd like to present myself. It's just poor Adian. At least it's the tail end of his bad day. At some point, Kale must have seen Nezrin because he is in the waiting room. He's in the living
Yes.
room waiting for his chance to like go at Aelin. You know, she allegedly attempted to murder baby girl.
Allegedly. Also, Lysandra and Adian go quiet when they start fighting because it's just, I mean, it's they're in the same apartment, like awkward.
And again, I don't know if especially just Lysandra, if I was her, I'd be like my ear is to the door, like, what'd
Mhm.
you say? What's happening?
Adian probably just passed out, but Lysandra's definitely like, "What's going on?"
Well, at this point, Aelin and Lysandra have had time for girl talk, so I'm
Mhm.
assuming she knows who Kaol is to Aelin, so I would
Mhm.
also just, like, be like, "What's the tea?"
Yeah.
Bless her. Aelin is trying to explain that she gave Dorian 1 minute of her escape. 1 minute that she and if we think about back in Assassin's Blade, when she gave that minute to oh my gosh, my brain just stopped.
Who did she give a minute to?
Redhead escaping,
Oh, Ansel,
Ansel.
you're so right. She did give a
Sorry.
minute to
Sorry, guys, I
her.
blanked on Ansel for a second. Like, you know, she's like these it shows how big a minute is because Ansel
Mhm.
was able to escape because she gave her a chance. And she's like, "I didn't my court, my kingdom did not have this minute for me to spare, and I tried.
Right, like, that 1 minute could have cost her everything. Don't dismiss it.
I did not go looking for Dorian.
Mhm.
He got in my way. I have to survive. What did you want me to do?"
Right, and even like, I gave him the minute, but then I still see it as me a
This is
mercy killing.
and this is a part where Kale's like, "You're a liar. You've always been a liar." I'm like, "Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because I didn't tell you I was Aelin because I wasn't ready to accept it, you know what happened to me. Like, that's not fair."
You could barely accept I always say accept when I mean accept. You could barely take
What are you saying?
you could barely
Okay. So sorry.
You you couldn't deal with the fact that I was an assassin who killed people. I obviously didn't think you were ready to hear that, by the way, I'm also the queen of
I
Terracin.
didn't lie to you about being an assassin. You came and found me
Yeah.
when I was in prison for it. So, like, there's no lying here, but that it's just one of those, like, X's. Like, he
Mhm.
just is not ready to hear it. He's also not ready to hear anything negative about Dorian because it'll
No.
break his heart. He's just he hates that Aelin said she didn't see the Dorian that they love in his eyes.
Well, he isn't ready to hear this, not just about his best friend, because Dorian is more I mean, it's his brother.
Yeah.
But this is also the man that Chaol has put the entire future of the country on. And Aelin knows that this is destroying Chaol. She can see it, but she needs him to understand the risk that she took. One. Two, the danger that he let Arabin manipulate him into putting everyone in.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
what have I told you about Arabin and you still listen to him over me?
but again, if this is the future of your country, I know that you wanna do your best to save Dorian. It is very important. But again, the country is depending on this, so you need to have a backup plan in case
Mhm.
I'm right. And it's like Kale is just not ready to accept that. And he's, you know, Kale, you're clearly not a leader, and we're getting that. But we're gonna need you
Ooh,
to like
you told him.
it's it's been apparent, unfortunately. We're gonna need you to have some other options, you know,
Mhm.
and I can't pussyfoot around this. This is a very big deal. Pay attention.
Well, even this is gonna be controversial, okay,
Okay, we're
but
ready.
and I love Dorian. When you're saying you're not a leader, up until this point, Dorian hasn't really shown any leadership qualities either. He just
Yeah.
happens to be the heir.
And he's a
So
sweet baby girl,
he's
but he's
sweet and
not
I love him, but
been making leadership moves, you're
he's
right.
been running from his title his entire life. So even at his best, Dorian is a gamble, but now he's possessed. So yeah, you're gonna have to come up with another option.
Yeah, and you're also
If
not
you're truly worried about these people, like you claim to be, if you're truly worried about the people of Rifthold, you have to come up with
and you
another
have to
option.
know that for Dorian to be anything, you're gonna have to defeat the king. So, like, thank God he finally told Aelin how to bring back magic
I know.
in the last
But then
book.
he even regrets it
I mean, I'm just like, "Ho why is your mind not functioning fully? Like, you're not thinking this through." You know, like,
because he's a
okay,
man.
let's say we save Dorian. He's still not gonna do anything. He hasn't done anything this whole time, as you're just saying. Like, there's bigger fish to fry. That's all. It's just I'm starting to rant about it,
Whatever
sorry.
part of your brain, that percentage where everyone's like, "You only use 5% of your brain." Men use less.
And I mean, it's been a big character arc for Kale, and we're seeing a lot of important changes, but there's a few things that he's just having trouble letting go of, and
Mhm.
it's frustrating as the
Yes.
reader. And then, of course, when Aelin is like, "You take the watch," he's all like, again, it's just like petty. "You're not my
"You're
queen."
not my real
And
mom."
she's like, "You know what? You're right, but there's nobody else here, so you're gonna have to grow up and decide who you're gonna serve pretty soon."
And again, I see both, like, I Aelin is my girl. She is my FMC. But if I were Aylin's attorney, I would be like, "Your Honor, my client put everything on the line. Adian's life, her future, the future of her kingdom. She put all of that on the line to give Dorian the opportunity to show her that he's still in there."
Yep.
But if I were Chaol's attorney, I'd be like, "Your Honor, this fire-breathing bitch tried to kill my best friend, and she moved on from our relationship criminally fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
mean,
the defense rests."
the Kale
I'm
is
watching OJ, if you're wondering why I'm
oh,
talking
this
like a
checks out
lawyer.
now. Well, and we did discuss last week as well that again, Aelin has not made any attempts to try to save her friend Dorian. She's not looked into anything to help kind
Yes.
of cure or save him. So Kale is not wrong.
He's
And
not.
Dorian is really lucky that somebody has his back. Because if it wasn't for Kale, like Aelin
Yeah.
was willing to sacrifice if she had
Well,
to.
even later when I don't wanna spoil, there's another character who gets something happens and they need to go after them, and it's immediate from Aelin. It's like, "We're doing this. We're
Hmm.
saving them."
Yep.
And there were a couple times where even she acknowledged in the I think it was mostly in, Crown of Midnight, but then Heir of Fire, that Dorian's always been kind of an afterthought for her. Like, she cares about him and she loves him, but he's not a priority for her, and he is a priority for Chaol.
It's just kind of wild the way she gave up on him so quickly.
Right.
And I mean, she has had to confront some Valg princes.
Mhm.
So at this point, she is
She
human.
has the most experience
She
with them.
does. And the only way, sorry, the only way that she was able to destroy or dispose of them was by using her magic against them and cutting off heads. So,
Mhm.
like, yes, that is what she knows. It is disappointing, though, that she hasn't yet tried to see if there's other options, and maybe her
Right.
mind was just so focused on things that are important to her and her kingdom that she
Mhm.
doesn't not care, she just hasn't had time.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
She's not holding space for Dorian right now.
Yeah, but Chaos, he's all pissy. He storms off, and he actually goes to take the first watch on the roof like he was told.
I know, he's like, I'm going out there because I want to,
Because I
not
want
because you
to.
told me to."
Yeah.
But then Lysandra peeks around the corner and is like, "What do you mean, queen?" Because he just said, "You're not my queen."
Poor Lysandra. I mean, and Lysandra, you have a right to feel a little betrayed that after all of the chatting you guys have had and the, like, being honest with each other that she didn't tell you, but
Mhm.
honestly, Lysandra, you haven't said everything yet either, and we'll find
Well,
that out.
Lysandra understands why she kept it secret. They don't know each other that well, like, this is the beginnings of a friendship, and more lives are at stake than just Aylin's, and, like, that's an appropriate response to that secret, Chaol. Like,
Yeah,
if I think that it's the difference in response, like, if you look at Lysandra and Chaol, it's someone who's had trauma and secrets and tragedy like Lysandra, and someone like empathy is learned.
yeah,
And Chaol is having to learn different perspectives and different journeys that everyone is going. Like, he's learning that, so it's hard for him to look at it the way that someone like Lysandra would look at it.
He just hasn't lived through enough trauma yet.
Did that make any sense? I think I just blacked
No,
out.
no, it makes sense because I think he hasn't had enough personal trauma yet. Like, we're getting there to give him more empathy.
Mhm.
Sometimes he's in a lot of ways like, yeah, his dad sucks, and that's sad, but, like,
Who has a good relationship with their dad, Kale? Like, move on.
he's had a very blessed life in comparison to these
Yes.
women, so, like, it's harder it's taking him longer to
Yes.
learn the empathy, and I know Lysandra totally understands. I think she still feels a little bit betrayed because they spent all this time
Mhm.
together, and she did sacrifice a lot. She's put a lot on the line to help save Adian. So, like, it was a good opportunity to literally be like, before you see him, we look alike because 'cause I'm Aelin."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
she's gonna put it together, but, she knows Selena's Aelin. It just would have been nice if Aelin had actually said it to her first.
Right. And I think Lysandra is more blown away that they kept it secret as long as they did. Because once you look at Aelin and Adian, everyone's like, "Oh, yeah,
Maybe Adian just hadn't
obvious."
been back to the capital, like, recently enough for
Yeah.
people because, like, once Aelin was, like, Selena prancing around the castle, like, I guess maybe Adian had been in the North long enough that they just kind of forgot how much they look alike.
Well, she also jokes about kissing Adian, like, "Ugh, that would be like kissing Aelin," but I'd be happy with either of those options, but also, like, little foreshadowing, little wink, wink.
Yeah, I think she also didn't quite mean it when she was like, "Ew."
Ew, I would never.
And so our baby girl Adian is now safe, our power bottom. So we're going to switch focus to Morath, where poor Alid has been in constant pain the 2 months that she's been walking up and down these endless steps. That sounds
I
awful.
know.
Like, it sounds awful anyway, but like with
Mhm.
chains around her ankles to boot, she's these endless steps of the fortress and her poor
Well,
ankle.
it's interesting that we go from Adian with chains between his ankles to a lead with chains between her ankles, but like the
Ooh.
contrast is where there's this whole escape plan for Adian. No one's coming for a lead.
I know. And it's so sad because she's having those thoughts too
Mhm.
about
And
back
she's a
when
little bitter, which is understandable. I too would be like, it's not like anybody came for me.
I mean, she literally got, like, locked in a tower as
Mhm.
a child, and then, of course, she was hurt, and, like, nobody aside from, like, her nursemaid Fionnuala, like, nobody really looked out for her,
Mhm.
so I do get the bitterness, but it's also kind of prepared her, like, "I have to save myself."
Mhm.
The lead uses her gifts from shoot, is it I think it's Aneath?
Anith?
I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, I'm sorry, guys, I think it's Aneath. She uses her gifts to flatter and trick people into seeing what they want to see, like the cook, who tells her when the next shipment of food and supplies will come in. A few of these gods have been mentioned before as well in the stories, but I think this is the first time that we've learned that Aneath is the consort to Hellas. Because we've heard about Hellas and I
Mhm.
think we've heard about Aneath, but we haven't heard that they're consorts. Aneath is the goddess of wise shit and slow death.
Which, like, what a combo. And I'm assuming that her name is either inspired by Neith, the Egyptian goddess of wisdom and hunting, and
Oh,
or Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom and war.
oh my gosh, I didn't know that about Neath. That's
Mhm.
so similar. It could be very much. Hellas is also really similar to Hades.
And Hades is in. I don't want to make this Blood of Hercules episode, but Hades is obviously he's not an Olympian because he's one of the four evil houses that were kicked out after trying to overthrow the Olympians. But
Oh.
he is married to Persephone, and they're the only ones who are married because it's not like cool or like in vogue to be married anymore. But he would like burn the world for her, and we just saw them together for the first
I
time.
mean, he did trap her in the underworld because he wanted to keep
I
her. So,
mean,
love.
it depends what did I read? Scarlet St. Clair, I think is the one I
Maybe.
read that was I really really liked. It was a Hades and Persephone
Yeah.
retelling, but
There's
it's
so many
kind of
different
modern.
versions of that story.
Mhm.
That's funny.
Well, I do wonder if we're gonna get something like that in ACOTAR with someone in Elaine, or I don't know. Like, imagine a Prince of Hell in Elaine.
Ooh.
That would be a Hades and Persephone. That would be fun.
I really do hope she spices things up for Elaine.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm
Whatever,
so
whoever it is, she better get fucked.
I'm just so interested to see where it goes. Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, Nesta and Feyre have been fucked, so it's
Mhm.
Elaine's turn.
And maybe she has been getting fucked, and we have no idea what's going on with
We just
her.
need to know more.
We
We're
do need to
ready.
know. I'm ready for her POV.
Any kind of update on a release.
Oh
We've
yeah,
said it
we
before,
need
but
that too.
we are ready. I think also at this point, the other gods that we know are Silba, because
Hmm.
we've heard about her a lot in The Assassin and the Healer, Deanna, Mala Firebringer, Kiva, and Loomis, and those are the ones whose birthdays are celebrated on Yulmus.
I think you mean Eulamus.
I almost said it again.
And there's also the three-faced goddess that the witches worship.
Elite is limping her way up to the Eyrie to deliver an urgent message to Manon.
Manon isn't there, but Elide sneaks a look out at the view, which is not great. Morath is in the middle of nowhere, no cities, no towns, just a fortress surrounded by men. So a nightmare.
Total nightmare.
Well, like hot take. It should be illegal for a group of 3 or more men to gather. And I think this is the perfect example of why there would have been, think of how many wars there would have been in the history of the world if men couldn't gather.
Mhm.
0, none. There would have been none wars.
None worse. Changes a lot.
So just putting it out there. Like at 3's pushing it, honestly. I'm barely comfortable with 3, but more than that, no, it should be illegal.
We don't need them to get any ideas.
Also, this moment of her looking out over the army and like everything is dark and ominous. I'm picturing Isengard
Me too.
when he's
That's what I
looking out.
saw.
I guess that would have been Two Towers.
Yeah, when he looks at the army he's been
Hmm.
creating.
And the guy almost blows everyone up because he has a stupid little candle and he's leaning down over the powder. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Alita's never seen an army before, speaking of lots of men, before she was taken to Morath by prison wagon, which I had a moment I was like, damn. I mean, I know
Why?
she's chained because her uncle sucks, but like a prison wagon?
Well,
I'm already
she's
chained. Where am I going?
right. She's already chained. She already has a fucked up ankle. Like, why? They just take a lot of precautions
I
with her.
can't read. I'm
I
really
can't
impressed
read.
she can even read a map.
Mhm.
Like I can't get anywhere. Like, was the prison wagon necessary? That's
Right.
so wild to me. But she was taken to Morath by prison wagon. Apparently, it's been 2 months, and before that, she had been locked in Perrant Castle since she was 8. Bless her heart. When her parents were murdered, and her uncle seized her father's title, which is actually her title.
And
She's had
we
it really rough.
Well, we know SJM loves a fairy tale, so I guess Elide is like Rapunzel with a limp.
Yep.
It's a little like locked in a tower. Also, Elide, like I was saying, she's a little bitter. No one came for her, which I get. But also, no one was exactly in a position for a rescue mission because the king just took Terrason and, I mean, he did it by like murdering everyone. So there wasn't really anyone to
Well, even
come for
like
you
if there was a rebel group out there, it doesn't mean that they were strong with a lot of power.
or knew
And
that you were
not
alive.
that they wouldn't care about a lead, but you're not going to be the one to save Terrason.
Hmm.
You're just not. But also, your uncle took over and has put it out there probably that you're dead.
Right.
You've been locked in a tower. It's not that we don't care. We just didn't know.
Yeah. But we also just, I don't know, we didn't care either. Elide wasn't a main character yet, but she will be.
Yeah.
I think all those what's interesting is all those nights in the tower, Elide could have sworn the wind spoke to her,
Interesting.
which is kind of I don't is that come back up?
I don't know about the wind speaking to her.
Is that just like Aneth?
I don't know because it also kind of hints at like
Like what was the wind
having
saying?
blue blood, being a witch.
They've hit the second
Because
tower.
well, because the witches also they listen to the wind.
Mhm.
Like they're
I guess
they're
that does.
attuned
I guess
to
that's
it.
an early okay, that's a witch connection.
I don't know, but it could be Aneth because Aneth has always been kind of on her shoulder, tapping her and like telling her when to pay attention and to like take care of her.
Mhm.
Gosh, poor Elite. She's given up on waiting for someone to come rescue her.
I feel that.
She plans to hide in one of the wagons after it drops off supplies and run, quote, far, far away. And now that she's seen outside, it'll have to be really far away.
Well, we didn't say it was a detailed plan because that's the plan. Is I'm going to run far, far away.
I mean, it's not like she really knows where she is or the
First
area.
of all, are you running anywhere?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Not with that ankle. I will hobble far, far away. She just has to fly under the radar for the next few weeks and not end up with the people that are caged inside the surrounding mountains. That sounds terrifying.
Mhm.
The ones that the servants whisper are splayed open on black stone
Ooh.
altars and turned into something else.
That reminds me of something. I can't think of what it is. Maybe I actually think it's Zodiac Academy.
Mm-hmm.
There's like something on an altar. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
The altar. There's a lot of books that talk about the altars and
well, there's is
things
it
being changed, made.
yeah, made. Manon jump scare. So like as she's looking out at this beautiful view. Manon pops up, and Elite is like, "Who is this diva?" Because she goes on and on about how beautiful Manon is. So, like, of course, you know where my mind went.
Hey.
And Manon is looking at Elite like, "Is you a spy?" But Elite is on the same reading level as Bookworm Feyre.
Oh,
So
no.
she's like, "Okay,
I
she's
mean,
probably not a
she's
spy."
literally the rightful heir of Paranth, and her uncle stopped her lessons when she was 8.
Did you do the Shirley method? Was that just an Alabama thing? The Shirley method, like, in English?
I
It
have
had, like,
no idea
stupid
what
little
that
songs
is.
that were like, "This little noun floating around
Oh,
needs."
I don't know. I don't
Does that
remember.
sound familiar?
No, I
It's like a
mean,
fever dream.
I'm not gonna pretend I have the best memory. I just remember watching a lot of those Schoolhouse Rock
Oh, yeah, "I'm
where
just
the
a
I'm
bill,
just a
and I'm
bill.
sitting here on Capitol Hill." That
There
was
may have been some of those that were like the
it
English
was like
terms
a
too.
book called The Shirley Method, and it had little jingles for everything.
I don't know that we did that because that
Are you
doesn't sound.
pulling your nails off?
Will you stop watching me? Mind your business. Focus.
No, I can hear it. It's like,
I didn't mean to. I started like,
"No, but they're gorgeous. Stop messing them up."
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
How do I get mine o like, I don't have tips, but how do I get my polish off?
Is
Does
it
someone
dip
have to
or
do it?
gel?
I don't know. I think it's dip.
Oh, honestly, what they do at the salon, which I had to do for myself when COVID started, they heat up a bowl of water
Mhm.
and then they set like in a plastic bag, they set oh shoot, what is the nail polish remover called?
Acetone?
Acetone. Yeah, they set that in like in a baggie. And a lot of times they'll put in the baggie in the hot water like cotton balls and have you
Mhm.
like rub your fingers together and it
Okay.
the heat with the water around it like makes it come off faster.
Maybe I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. It takes a little bit longer, but, like, it's
Update's coming.
I know.
I just
Oh,
had that thought when I heard you messing with your nails. I was like, "Wait, how do I get
sorry,
mine
and that's
off?"
me, like, my, like, ADD, just, like, not sitting still, and I didn't even notice I was doing that, sorry.
But her nails are, like, celestial,
I
and they're
know.
gorgeous.
I got somebody to hand paint them. If you're in the
Mm.
Nashville area, go see Paul at Music City Nails. I mean, he did a fantastic job. I will go back to him for sure. So anyway, back to the important stuff. Manon shows a lead where it says Manon Blackbeak
She's like,
on this.
"Manon
Yeah, because she
Blackbeak."
was there under the cover of delivering, like, a letter to her,
Mhm.
and she tells her, "If you see anything that looks like this in the future, you bring it right to me, and while you're at it, stop pretending to be a stammering little simp."
Manon sees Elid's game. She smelled her fingers. And that out of context, that sounds, but it's because she knew like the map, right? She
Yeah,
was like, knew that she had touched the map. That's
she
why,
smelled her very
yeah.
specific
But the way I
location.
said that, she smelled her fingers. But again, with the unsolicited haircut, it's like when Aelin got that unsolicited haircut from the Valg. Elide gets, I would be so upset.
I almost wonder if Manon was like, "Whoops, forgot the
Oops.
nails are out." Just wanted to scare her a little bit. She does ask if it was Elite's mother or father that was related to Vernon, and it was her father. So he was Vernon's eldest brother, and her mother, the one who saved Aelin, Lady Marion, was a low-born laundress from Rosamel, where Manon is familiar with.
Well, I think Aideen is too, because I'm pretty sure one of his scars is from there. That's the
Well,
only other mention I could find.
the western wastes are on the border of Terrasen. So I
Mhm.
think Rosamel, it sounds like it's a town that was close to the border, which is
Okay.
probably why Manon is familiar with it. I'd have to go back and look at the map,
Mhm.
but I'm just guessing that's probably why. Abraxos tries to nudge past Manon and he meets Elide's eyes, which is, like she's like, "Whoa, he's more sentient than I was expecting." Like he is
Yeah.
looking
Well,
at
you think
her.
it's gonna be just this evil monster.
Well, and I mean, sometimes animals like like they're looking at you, but they're just looking at you like, are you a danger to me or are you prey?
No,
But
he, like,
he's like,
looks at you with intelligence.
yeah, he's paying attention and then he like looks down at her chains like he understands what it means.
Mhm. Well, he's also triggered,
Baby.
and Elite is also, so she's Elite is one of these characters that's always trying to, like, take notes on things and how it can help her later,
She
and
does
she,
do a good job of paying attention.
yeah, she notices, like, okay, Manon must have a soft spot for broken things.
Well,
Like, and guess who's broken?
because she's always trying to play
A
to like
character.
yeah, to whoever she's talking to, I guess to kind of manipulate, but to whatever she thinks will help protect her.
Mhm.
She's like reading people to see how she needs to behave like in
Mhm.
response. So she's like, "You know what? Manon likes broken things. I can play that angle.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever I need to help save myself." Braxos literally gives a lead puppy dog eyes,
Oh.
and she's shocked that something that the king made like, whatever he's making inside the mountains isn't evil. It's
Well,
different.
he's such an empath. Like, he knows that her ankle is hurting her, but Manon is like, "You soft-hearted worm." I love when she calls him that because there's also it's like I also finished Lights Out,
Uh-huh.
and that guy is like this super stalker that was on like a mask guy, like a mask kink guy on TikTok. But when he starts coming around her cat, he always refers to the cat Fred as their son. And he's like, not in
Oh,
front of our son.
that's
It's just
actually
very
adorable.
cute. I love little stuff like that.
That is funny.
But Manon also describes Elide as a mini faced girl, which is very a Song of Ice and Fire coded.
It's very Arya, but it's also their goddess, because the witch's
Yeah.
goddess is the many-faced goddess.
Well, and we've talked about the god we need to do I wanted to do, like, little mini episodes about that world, but about, like, the gods, because
Yeah.
there is, like, the stranger, there's all these faces of the same god, but
Mhm.
just a little bit of that lore with Arya and the many-faced people. It's it's our podcast, we can do what we want.
Yeah, say what you want.
The founders of the Faceless Men in A Song of Ice and Fire, they were slaves who worked in the mines under the 14 Flames, and those are the volcanoes that destroyed old Valyria, so very Morath.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about it, it's a lot like what Aelin did with Aedian's escape. So the Faceless Men aren't actually shapeshifters. Like, it's a form of magic, but it's really just a disguise, like a glamour.
Mhm.
And there's a phrase associated with them, and it's High Valyrian for all men must die, which always made me think of Memento Mori. Remember that you must
Yeah.
die from the meat market
In
in
Crescent
Crescent
City.
City.
I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, like, it seems along the same lines. It all
Yeah.
overlaps. It's so interesting.
But yeah, you saying that about the witch's goddess, it is a lot like the many-faced god in A Song of Ice and Fire world.
Yeah. I know. It's so interesting. Like, I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but,
Yeah,
like,
sorry.
I
Tangent
love when
over.
we make these connections because it, like, just opens my mind to, like, consider more things. I'm like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
The letter that Ali delivered to Manon is from her grandmother, and it's telling her to obey and not question the Duke. Ugh.
Because apparently someone is a little tattletale rat. Like, she's not just sending that out of nowhere. She's clearly gotten word
That
that
Manon's
Manon.
questioning.
Right.
So there are 3 yellow legs and 2 blood blue blood covens that are arriving tomorrow, and Manon is instructed to see it that there are no fights or trouble.
Or else, the high bitch will fly down there and hang the 13 by their intestines. Casual. Real casual.
I'm really over this high bitch. Once again, Manon hears the Kraken's voice in her head, the one who told her that they were made into monsters. So her next stop is Ghislaine, the nerdiest member of the 13.
So the one wearing, like, thick glasses that keep sliding down because of the sunscreen on her nose?
Yeah, I think she's the oldest one too, so she's probably like, "Ugh, please."
God.
It's too bad that her eyes are green without a hint of gold.
So embarrassing.
I mean, she sounds gorgeous.
I know, she does sound, but because it's the witches, they're like,
I
"Not a hint
know.
of gold,
They care so
disgusting."
much about having that. Well, that's also a Blackbeak thing, is to
Mhm.
have the gold flecks in your eyes. It means something.
And that's why Manon is so special.
Ugh. Manon asks if Ghislaine knows anything about the Vogue, and Ghislaine says, of course she does. She's a smart one.
Yeah,
And
I'm
she
the
makes
smart one.
like an impatient immortal gesture.
Because her mother convinced the high bitch to send her daughter to a mortal school in Terrason 100 years ago, and she learned magic, but she also picked up some mortal tendencies.
Yes.
What they're like, ugh, disgusting.
I think I said immortal gesture. Excuse me. I meant mortal.
Immortal.
She's showing her culture. She's cultured.
It's our culture.
Well, I mean, she's
Our
showing that
culture is not a
she's
costume.
showing that she's been cultured. She tells Manon that millennia ago, when the Vogue broke into Aurelia, witches did not exist. It was just the Vogue, Fae, and humans. But the Vogue wanted the world for their own, so they kidnapped Fae. This sounds familiar. And the
Mhm.
offspring became the witches.
It's very classic colonizer.
When it's kind of what they're doing right now
Mhm.
when they want to use the
It is. It's like
stones.
history repeats itself if you don't do something about it.
Ugh. I mean, it worked out. The witches are a pretty cool creation, but we don't know
Yeah.
where this is going. The Iron Teeth took after the Vogue, while the Krakens took more after the Fae.
Obviously, people weren't thrilled about the existence of witches. Like, I get it. The Fae were literally raped, and here's this walking reminder of that.
Yeah.
But Brandon didn't think it was right to hunt them down after the war because it's not the witch's fault.
Yeah,
So he gave them the Western waist.
which is respectful,
It is. It
especially
shows how fair he was.
it gives me questions more about what their part was in that war.
Mhm.
Like, did they keep to themselves? Were they on the Vogue side in the beginning? Were they on the Fae side? Like,
I don't know.
since they're kind of a creation of both?
Mhm.
I do have more questions about that war, but now we know how that went.
All the Western wastes, they really fucked that up.
Yeah.
Legend says Valg are the origin of evil, and Manon jokes it sounds like that's our kind of people, but the Valg have no. She immediately shuts that down. She's like,
Giselle's like, "No, no, no,
no,
no."
they have no laws, no codes. They would see the 13 as weak for their bonds and like the rules that they have, and they would just break them for the LOLs. Like, no, that is not someone you want to partner with.
Yeah, this is not like this whole culture that we've based everything on with, like, honor and following orders, like,
Hmm.
they would tear us apart,
Well,
like
Manon likes to think of herself as I'm this brutal, heartless, but no, you don't know cold and heartless.
yeah, but she also, if we've noticed, has to keep telling herself that.
Yes.
It's like her, like, underlying mantra to herself.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Brandon and the Fey Queen Maeve found ways to defeat the Vogue, according to Ghislaine. So if the Vogue were ever to come back, she would hope that someone could find a way to do it again.
And she's the smart one, so she's put it together, that's why the soldiers smell wrong. And even if the Duke described the Valg as allies, she says that word is not even in their vocab. I'm trying not to say her name because I know I'm gonna fuck it up. Ghislaine?
Well, side note, there's a whole documentary on, I think it's Ghislaine Maxwell,
Yeah, that's what I keep wanting to say is Ghislaine.
but the audiobook calls her Ghislaine. Like,
Ghislaine.
so I'm just saying from the audiobook. I could be saying it wrong too. I don't know.
Whoever she is, she says that that word allies is not in the Valg vocabulary. They only honor alliances when it serves them. Now my mind went to that TikTok where it's like ally.
So basically, they're like snakes in the grass. You can't
Yes.
trust them. When Manon tells her the Duke wants a coven to experiment on to use to breed the Vogue, Ghislaine asks what she's going to do. And even though the high bitch just said, don't question the Duke, Manon's like, maybe I might just write her another
They're
letter.
in denial about the High Witch. Like, I don't know how they don't see that she is very aware of
It's
everything that's
very
happened.
weird that she thinks that writing her grandmother a letter will change anything. I'm like, has this woman at any point shown you that she cares?
Right. Well, by the next morning, so I don't think Manon says don't tell anyone, but by the next morning, everyone knows about the Valg and Manon's choice. She meets the 13's eyes and they find anywhere else to look except Astrid, who looks right back into Manon's eyes. But before it turns into a fight, a leader from one of the newly arrived Yellowlegs covens, she walks up and asks to be considered for the Duke's task.
Oh, it's so sad
Because
because
she's like, you're going to give us the shitty jobs anyway because we're Yellowlegs. You might as well give us this.
yeah, for the glory.
It doesn't make Manon's choice to hand over a coven okay, but it does make it easier because it was
Yeah.
going to be harder for her to have to pick, but now she's like,
At least it's
okay.
not us.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever heard that audio, speaking of TikTok, where it's like, Santa brought me a fat Barbie. I wanted a skinny Barbie. That's the Duke because he wanted a Black Beats coven, but you're getting a bootleg Yellowlegs coven. Sorry.
Yeah, you know
You have
what?
to make it work.
It'll all still be witches and y'all can sort it out, but in the end, basically, Manon's grandmother has let her know, like, once this is over, they're not our allies, so
Mm-hmm.
take what you must. Even though her grandmother warned her not to question the Duke, Manon can't help but ask, why? Why do all of this? Why ally with the Vogue? Why raise this army?
Because we can, and because this world has too long dwelled in ignorance and archaic tradition. This world, not this land, this continent. He says this world is kind of a little slip up, like when earlier what did he say that was we were like, you're just a duke. What do you mean your throne or your world or
Yeah, I think he
whatever?
was talking about, like, the armies. It was very possessive, and it was like,
Yeah,
"Who are you? You're not the king. What's going on here?" But
exactly.
Manon does take notice. Then we have time for a possessed Dorian
They're
interlude.
so depressing.
I know, but it shows us that he's still in there. We're in
Yes.
baby girl's head. We learn that he did try to take control of his body during that fight with Aelin outside the glass castle, but it seems like he didn't try that hard. So
No,
again,
try harder.
I'm just like had a moment where like if you just knew to say Sorce's name, maybe he would have fought harder. I don't
Maybe.
know.
She'd have to know Sorce's name to say it.
But and I mean, I'm glad obviously nothing happened to baby girl,
Mhm.
but it kind of brings Aylin's point home because inside he was sobbing when in relief,
Mhm.
thinking that she was gonna end him, and she's just he didn't remember who she was, but he
Mhm.
recognized the turquoise eyes, and he was like, "Oh, it's finally almost over," with that
Right.
blade over his head.
The king questioned him about what happened, went to that spot in the garden and was, like, prodding the shackles taken off of Adian's power bottom, so the king is not happy.
No, and it's convenient that he, like Dorian's like, "I don't remember her name."
Yeah.
So he kind of still protected Aelin, like, he could have
Mhm.
described how she looked. The king could have tried, like, he could have given more and he didn't.
Yeah.
And Dorian does wish that she had killed him. He hates her for not killing him actually, because it's been so horrible for him.
That would be I mean, he's locked inside of his own body and not in control. That's
If
a
there really
nightmare.
was no way to save him, then Aelin was right,
Mhm.
trying to, like, help him, like, she's trying to release him. Then we get back to Aylin's apartment where Chaol ghosts after his watch shift is over. I mean, he thinks about going down to see Adian and see how he is, and then he just doesn't.
I get that you're angry about, like, everything, but Adian literally sacrificed himself for Kale in the throne room. You can't go
Yeah.
check on him?
Nothing?
Kale is just when we're inside Kale's head, it's just so toxic, and, like, again, I'm not gonna, like, rehash it every time. I understand why he's upset, but he's very I don't know how to describe it other than red pill in his inner dialogue. Like, he's just in a echo chamber of, Aelin is a liar. She's a worse oath breaker than I am. I always knew she was bad. I always knew she couldn't be trusted." He's just, like, spiraling and amping himself up.
As he was having that moment, I was like, "What oath did she break?
Yeah, what are you
What
talking
promise to
about?
you are you talking about? You guys were broken up when she left. She came back to help. Like, what
She
is
didn't seek out Dorian to kill him.
again, she never also she refused to answer when he asked about her plans for Dorian. So like,
Mhm.
I didn't promise you anything. He's still my friend if he's still in there, but like I didn't promise you anything.
Yeah.
Kale is just I think he's just so angry because he feels so defeated and he
Mhm.
does not know how to
It's like
handle
an
his
easy
emotions.
person to take it out on.
It's too much though. Like I love that Nezrin is like, get over it.
I know, I love her.
I mean, Kale's also assuming that the Vogue will be rounding up more people for punishment after Aelin humiliated the king again. And I'm having a moment, I'm like, you helped her
You
humiliate the king. You agreed this was necessary. So stop. Just, it's like he wallows
Well,
in his
stop putting the
frustrations.
blame on her for things that the king and the vow like, he's always like, you made the king do this. The king did it. Like, why would that be my fault? Like, I didn't invite him to prom and then pour pig's blood on him and laugh. Like, I wasn't just trying to embarrass him. I was saving Adian. He's
Yeah.
just I don't know.
Well,
He
again, it's so frustrating because it's also like, Kale, you agreed to help me. You
yes.
can't go back and be like, I regret it. Just shut up.
Shut up.
You've made this decision to it wasn't just me. And like, again, nobody wants collateral damage, but this is for the greater good. There's really big things happening here. Like, you know, again, I'm just so glad that Nezrin is like got her head on her shoulders
Mhm.
because, and I know we'll get to it. I'm jumping ahead, but reading through some of Chaol's inner dialogue is really frustrating in
It
this
is.
this book. To burn off some of his male toxicity, Chaol goes hunting for Vogue and he finds none, not one, which again is probably good because he would have gotten himself killed. I can only
Right.
imagine.
Well, he'd have blood all over him, but then he'd look at Aelin and be like, "Ugh, she has blood on
The
her
blood on your
hands."
hands? Well, because he's doing it all alone. You
Mhm.
cannot actually go into a Vogue nest all alone and not hurt yourself. Like you're doing this out of anger.
Yeah.
I'm fortunately for him, he couldn't find any of them. The
Well,
Vogue soldiers and prisoners are all gone now. They've moved out.
and he thinks this whole thing is just a big middle finger to Kale and the rebels. Like, I think he's putting a little too much importance on himself. Like, do you think the Valg, we say it differently and we're all just gonna have to accept it that way. You're probably right. But the Valg, an ancient demon race, do you think they and the literal king got together and they were like, what can we do to fuck with Chaos specifically?
I'm thinking of
What can
something
we do to piss him off?
really small scale, and they're saving like 2 prisoners out of the 100 we've rounded up. We should probably do something
It'll be
just for him.
hilarious.
God, Kale. Without really anywhere else to go, because he has a moment of like, "I don't have any friends."
I
And
wonder why.
yeah, you're such a happy sunshine to be around. He walks to Nezrin's father's house.
And her father is named Saeed, and it made me think of Saeed from Lost, and that
Yeah,
actor was so attractive.
so attractive.
I rewatched the first season recently, And I forgot how just like I first of all, I forgot that, Vampire Diaries, I forgot Damon was on the 1st season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go back and rewatch Lost. I have not seen that in so long.
I know, I watched it in real time, but I I still don't truly understand the ending, like, when people have big conversations about it, I'm like, "Yeah," and they weren't really dead the whole time, but they were in purgatory. I don't get it. I can't
Yeah.
have an intelligent conversation about it.
That's a whole spiral people go down. Kale tells Nezrin about the missing Volgan prisoners, and she's like, "Okay, so why did you come
Okay.
here?" He says for distraction, and I'm like, "Wow, so again, I'm not your first choice. You just
Well,
had nowhere else to go."
he says distraction, like, not that kind of distraction, but in his head, he's thinking, "I mean, if she offered that kind of distraction, so you are here for that kind of
But also,
distraction."
he's like, "I would take it and then feel terrible." Like, don't fucking
'Cause it's
take
all
it.
for him, then don't take it.
He's so like, it's selfish.
He's
Ugh.
very self-centered. I do love that Nesrin is she's still there for Kale, but she's calling him on his shit. Like,
Yeah,
when
girl.
he's like, "I can't be friends with Aelin because there's no trust." She's like, "Bestie, you're the one who met with Arabin."
And they keep calling him Aylin's master. Like,
I
stop
hate
it.
that. That's my number that's, like, in the list of things that Kale has done that are diabolical, like, that's probably number 1 to me is Kala, 'cause you know their
And
history.
he's just doing it subconsciously. Like, it hasn't even occurred to him that, like,
Mhm.
it's so wrong.
Well,
God.
and in Heir of Fire, he was talking about going and killing Arabin for what he did to Aelin, but that's her kill to make, and
And
now
she
you're like,
also told you how toxic he is, and now you're like, "That's
"Yes."
okay. I'll see what I can do with it." Like, what? Why are you
N
meeting with him?
Nezrin lays out the facts, like, "Say Aelin is right and Dorian is gone. What are we going to do then?"
Of course, Chaos snaps. Like, deep down, he knows it's a possibility, but if Dorian is gone, all of this was for nothing.
Mhm.
And then he hits her with a, "You wouldn't understand."
Nezrin is first of all, she's always catching
Poor
strays.
Nezrin.
But also, like, I wouldn't understand caring about the future of this kingdom and its people. People like my family of immigrants, my sister and niece. There have been immigrant purges in Rifthold. We were both counting on Dorian to fix everything, but if he's gone, it doesn't help anyone to sit around feeling sorry for yourself and mourning your plan A when you should be ordering some plan B.
Well, and it just points out again that Kale is literally only thinking of Dorian. He's like
Yes.
excusing it as I'm thinking about the country. No, you're not.
Mhm.
Not once have you asked Nezrin anything about her life, and you know how like cruel your kingdom is to immigrants. Not like all these opportunities you had to actually speak to her properly and not just fuck
Yes.
her. Like you haven't done any of that, and he has a real moment of like, "Oops."
Yeah, this is a woman who not only did he for I don't know how long, but they used to hook up, and then they were rebels together. They've been working together, and he's learning more about her in this one conversation than all of that time.
And not once did he think to ask these questions himself. So
It's
like
the lack of empathy.
we've been talking about Kale's arc, and it's thank God that Nezrin is there to kind of
Mhm.
point these things out to him because it hasn't even occurred to
But
him.
why it shouldn't even have to be on her to explain these things to people,
No, but
but
I'm glad
it's
she is there to help with it.
yeah.
I mean, Kale is sad
He's sexy. He's like, "Wait, what?"
because again, not only has he never heard her say this much, and I'm like, oh, so you really just went to her to hook up when you felt like it.
Mhm.
Like you're an asshole. What a fuck boy. But he also didn't even know she had a sister because he asked no
Imagine.
questions. He didn't know she was an aunt. This is the first time that he's really even considering what it would have been like for Nezrin growing up as an immigrant. So like you had opportunity, Kale, to
Well,
like broaden your horizons and you ignored it.
it's exactly what I was saying with how Lysandra and Chaol reacted so differently to finding out Selena is Aelin. Empathy, it has to be like developed, and a lot of times it's through your own hardships and trauma. Like Nezrin is reacting to all of this through her own personal lens of personal experiences, the same way Lysandra reacted to the news through her own, like everything she's been through, you
It's
know?
it's that, and it's also just, like, making friends of different backgrounds, and it's
Hmm.
clear I don't wanna say sheltered, but, like, just the bubble that Kale lived in that none of this occurred to him. Because even when he was hooking up with Nezrin, he wasn't thinking enough outside of his own needs.
I know more about girls I've met in bathrooms than Kale knows about this woman that he was hooking up with.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but Kale does finally hear what she's saying.
And a lot of that is probably I love Aylin, but she isn't great with communication because they're both just so like hurt and emotional when they
Yeah.
talk to each other. And Nezrin is like a little more direct and unemotional. So they agree to stay the course but plot a new path just in case.
Well, Nezrin has been seeing the bigger picture much longer, and
Mhm.
Kael clearly hasn't considered it. And she's like, I'm not giving up because this is about more than just us and Dorian.
Right.
So I love Nezrin
I
for
do
all of
too.
that. She's such a like steady.
She's
She's a
steady,
strong
right.
and steady character.
Mhm.
Adian regains conscious. Like, wait, I don't know. That was so nasally and everything. That was awful. Adian regains consciousness in Aylin's apartment, and bless his heart, he's so emotional seeing his cousin. And I cried through this whole chapter.
Well, he's overcome with emotion and he starts sobbing. And I don't know what it is about reading like a big, strong male sobbing, but
Hmm.
it makes me want to cry. And so this is his cousin he thought was dead for 10 years.
This is
10
all.
years of thinking that he had failed her. And in those
Yeah.
10 years, he did everything he could for Terrason, including whoring himself out to the king. Then he learned that she was alive and he's been worrying about her judging him. And then he was being used as bait to trap her. And it's just like it's all coming crashing down, like that
Well,
his cousin is in front of him.
yeah, and we mentioned this even just when Aelin was going to save him. They're the last remains of their family. Like,
Mhm.
they are everything they have left. So I'm gonna start crying talking about it. Not only did
Don't
she
you have little jewels glued to your eyes?
I've made it this far, it's okay. But, like, it's it, like, hit my heart how much, like, both they've been hoping for this, but they were afraid to hope, and, like, we're here, we're both
Mhm.
okay, and we, like, get to truly be rebonded.
Mhm.
It hits me in my feels.
Right.
I loved this scene, and he never once judged her for doing what she had to do in those 10 years, and she does not judge him either. Like, they understand each other.
Mhm.
She didn't judge him for being Otterland's capital I'm so caught up in my emotions. She doesn't judge him for being Otterland's capital W whore.
He tells her she was worth it. All the years in waiting, she was worth it, which deep down is something I have to imagine that Aelin struggles with. All these people are counting on her. So it's a lot of pressure, but it would be hard not to have imposter syndrome. Like, am I worth it? Am I worth everything that everyone is going through to put me back on this throne? Am I going to be worth it?
Well,
And
oh, I was just gonna add also just everybody is looking at her for different things. Like, her on
yes.
the throne is different to a lot of people. It means
Mhm.
something different. But Aideen is actually looking at her
Yes.
as her family.
Not just what she can do for him or do for the country or whatever, but yeah, like he's looking at her as a person and saying you were worth it, and it's just so sweet.
Mhm.
Y'all already know what I'm going to say about these characters, but I think when I was rereading it, I think Sarah just kind of struggled, or maybe it's me. Am I projecting? Am I the drama?
Maybe.
But writing this bond in a way that didn't come across borderline cousin fucky, because there's just like the Fae instincts and the soul connection no one will ever understand, and there's of course scent, and it just I don't know.
Well, and I mean, Aideen growing up was basically Aylin's only friend. So their
Mhm.
connection, because they're like 5 years apart. So it's a little bit weird that a teenage boy is hanging out with an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But
But he
I
was just
think,
so protective.
yeah, like, he's always had this honor and this connection to her. Like, it is a little bit hard to read the bond because you're like, is there more to
Well,
this?
what does he say that's got us like side eye?
Well,
My
it's
queen.
yeah, he keeps saying my some of the things in his head, he's thinking my queen before he's thinking my
You're like,
cousin. And I was
oh,
like, it's
what's
different. It's
happening?
interesting.
I'm writing it in my head, whether you guys like it or not.
Well, I mean, just the way that he pats the bed, he's like, come on over here and cuddle. We're grown-ups now. We've all hit puberty. This is a little different than like children cuddling, but
Yeah.
I just it is still very sweet that the way that
Hmm.
they, like, are immediately, like, comforting each other the way they did as kids.
Yes.
And it's interesting that Adian notices another scent is entwined with Aylin's, a very powerful, very male Axe body spray scent.
Aelin and Adian catch each other. Catch.
They
What's wrong with
can't.
us? Aelin and Aiden catch each other up on the last 10 years, and this is someone that Aelin can really open up to. It's not going to judge her or use info against her, a ride or die. So I would say she can open up about everything, but there is one thing she leaves out.
I know, and it
This was the time to tell him about the blood oath.
well, She clearly tells him all about being bonded to Rowan and meeting Rowan.
Yeah, just tell him.
Like,
Like, it sucks and you don't wanna have to tell him, but don't you want him to hear it from you?
I think she's just had way too much time being protective and, like, keeping details to
Yeah,
herself and keeping things secret. I'm just an open book. I would immediately feel like, "Here's everything."
yeah.
Everything. Because like, there's no way she didn't tell him about going to Maeve's
Mhm.
to, like, show her power and then rescue Rowan, so and Adian would understand. He knows all about Maeve. He
Yeah,
didn't get to know who his father was because of Maeve.
he wouldn't be happy about it, but I think that he would understand once she explained it. It's just the way he finds out sucks, and it makes me mad, and her reaction to his reaction has always pissed me off, but we're not even there yet. So far, it's just a happy family reunion.
Yeah. Well, they fight like siblings.
Yes.
They're literally 2 sides of the same sexy coin, and of
Yes.
course, unsurprisingly, someone has taken advantage of Aelin trashing the vaults, and they've reopened something new, which is the same thing, called the pits.
They aren't even pretending to be anything other than a literal fighting pit. We're like, "We're the pits," which you have to kinda respect, and of course, my mind went to the Prince of the Pit from Crescent City.
Yeah.
Not really a connection, but in this story, the pits aren't necessarily bad, they just are what they are, and I guess that's kinda like the princes. They just are what they are, not like good or evil.
Yeah. Aelin, Chaol, and Nezrin all go to the pits.
As are plenty of Val commanders and guards there, and they are, of course, loving all this pain and misery.
Oh my god, they're thriving in
Yeah.
that environment, which is kind of gross. You're like, "Ugh, didn't mean to do that." The rebels haven't been able to find any of the Vogs since Adian's rescue, so this is the perfect chance to follow them when they leave. It's like a little prezi from for Chaol from Arabin.
Aelin was summoned there by Arabin, who tells her he's in need of a new investment since she wrecked the vaults. The owners of the pits, despite being public about wanting an investor, they haven't accepted Arabin's offer. So they're like pretty smart.
But Arabin, didn't he also have an investment in the vaults?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Like, now that you've wrecked the vaults, I need a new investment.
Yeah, but they're also kind of like, they're like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
they're
Okay.
keeping Arabin at arm's
Like,
length, even though he was one of the original investors. Like, these are
yes.
new owners. And they're like, maybe.
Well, and Aelin is there to show what kind of fighters Arabin would bring to the table. Like,
Yeah.
but she's not going to be there weekly. This isn't like a residency at the pits.
They're very much looking at Arabin like, make it worth our while.
Yeah.
Arabin brought Lysandra as well, and she happens to be wearing like a beautiful dress, but it's just like, is this the right environment to be
Yeah.
wearing that?
Well, she has to. Well, I never.
Yeah, she has another like fan moment, like, don't touch my dress.
I love a fan moment. I wish I had a fan moment.
I know. That's what we missed last night. We're
You
bringing
know
fans
what? If
with
I
us.
did another one, I think I would do like, do you remember seeing the one of the women that put on the event? It was like an off the shoulder red
Yes,
dress.
I
I
think that was
love
Jenna that was wearing
Yes,
that.
and had the fan. I love that. Like, I like that look.
Yes, there were several. I know we keep going back to it, but there were several beautiful dresses that I was like, where did you get that?
I know, I wanted to ask everyone,
Because
like,
they
"Where'd you
had
get
these
that?"
big, beautiful skirts. They were very elaborate. They
Mhm.
had like a corseted back and these off the shoulder looks. And I was like, there's so many dresses here that I would absolutely have
It was
tried to wear.
gorgeous.
It was so much fun. Back to the pits, gross. Oh, so like Lysandra's there, and the moment they have a moment alone, Aelin thanks Lysandra for her help in Adian's escape.
And she thanks her maybe for a little something else we don't know about yet. Because if there's one thing about Aelin and Lysandra, like, they got some secret plans.
These girls are not done yet. Aelin gets to choose her opponent. Well, she gets to choose which of the Vogue present she wants to fight.
And that's what this is really about. Like, it's about a couple of things. 'Cause Arabin is always like, there's always multiple plays going on at the same time.
Mhm.
But on top of convincing the owners to let him invest, Arabin has fulfilled his part of the bargain to free Adian, but Aelin still owes him one Valg, and he's clearly curious about him. So it's also like, let's see what they're capable of. So yeah, it's like multiple things.
It's interesting she says she wants to show Arabin what they're capable of because she defeats him and Arabin can potentially defeat Aelin, so it's not like discouraging him in any way.
Yeah, I don't know.
When asked for a name, Aelin answers, Ansel of Briarcliff.
Hmm.
No, we're gonna bring that one back. And when she's asked for an opponent, she points to the Valg. Dang it. I'm pretty sure the Audible, she called him Vogue, which is
Okay.
why, but it's easier to fall into Valg too. But anyway, she points at the Vogue commander.
I guess Ansel was top of mind because when Arabin pitched Aelin to the owners of the pits, he did so by saying like, "Hey, she trained with the Mute Master in the Red Desert. Like, you're gonna want to see her fight." So I guess that's why she was thinking of Ansel.
Well, and she also has her hair dyed again. I guess
Oh
one,
yeah,
to make her harder to figure out for anybody that knew her at the Glass Castle,
yeah.
but there's a couple under because Ansel had that beautiful, like, red
Mm-hmm.
wine red hair, so, like, there's a couple of, like, she's calling somebody out by using this name.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We switch to Kael's POV as he watches Aelin jump down into the pit. And as much as he hates to admit it, he does appreciate Arabin's little gift of pointing him in the direction of the Vogue so he doesn't spend yet another night wandering around the sewers looking for nests.
And again, nothing triggers me more than Kael referring to Arabin as Aelin's master. Like, even if you're mad at her, it's like, this is the woman that you claim to love. Like, when she was leaving for Windland, he said he loved her. And you know everything Arabin did to her, just like how fucking dare you
But
refer to
also,
him? And you like, yeah, oh wow, Arabin got you this present of bringing all the Valg here for you to follow home, but he's not just doing that for you out of the kindness of his heart.
well, Arabin is not pulling my strings. Like, Aelin is back and she's better than ever and she is operating on her own. And it is very clear that she is like working with Arabin when she needs to, but
Mhm.
like, don't call him my fucking master. He
I
is not
hate
in
that. I know I
charge
keep
here.
saying that, but every time it comes up, I get re-mad.
It just, yeah. Well, and I mean, maybe as Selena, there were games she was still playing with herself, but Arabin has not been my quote master or had any hold on me since Assassin's Blade. So you
Mhm.
just back off. Kael is obviously still butthurt that Aelin went after Dorian at the Glass Castle, but he couldn't say no to this opportunity.
And it's not because of the Valg. Like, he only found that out once he got to the pits. It's because saying no would have meant Aelin being here with no one watching her back. So even if he's a little bitch about a lot of this stuff, there's clearly some level of care. Like, even there's a couple of times where Nezrin's like, Aelin's okay. And she knows that Kael would never ask, but he does. I mean, he doesn't just want her to die.
Kael cannot admit that he's there to like watch her back, but they're technically working towards the same goal right now. So
Hmm.
he's pretending to himself, I guess. Like it's because it's what the rebels would want. Okay, Kael.
Okay, Kael.
Kael watches as the queen of motherfucking Terracin squares off against the Vogue commander.
Which is just insane to think about right now in the pits, the queen of Terracin.
Did I accidentally just unplug your mic? I touched it. It's under my foot.
I don't think so.
Okay. Sorry for the break. Um
Testing, testing. Yeah.
okay, that freaked me out for a second because I didn't realize it was hanging down there. So sorry. Queen of Terracin. Fighting off the Vogue. Oh, is that my part?
Yeah, you can just start over.
Kale watches as the queen of motherfucking Terracin squares off against the Vogue commander.
Which is just crazy to think about. The queen of Terracin is fighting in the pits right now.
Yeah. Well, again, Kale went from being like, you're an assassin, but I'm going to pretend you don't kill people, to now he's watching her fight. He even trained her
Yeah.
while she's at the Glass Castle. It doesn't make sense how he goes back and forth in his head with like what's acceptable and what's not. And now he's
Hmm.
like, okay, you can get in there and fight. You'll be fine. Oh, will I be fine? Are
Yeah.
we accepting that now? Kale has seen Aelin fight and kill before, but it's been a while since he's seen her like really enjoying it. And he also hasn't seen her since she trained with Rowan. And it's been
Hmm.
even longer since she had a worthy opponent.
But it's like not just because she's out there and she's smiling like a maniac, like she's throwing her arms out and turning in a circle, like, are you not entertained? Like, that's showbiz, baby.
He
I'm
makes
putting on
it.
a show. Like, I hate that he can't see past her mask when she puts it on.
It's not even a hard mask to understand. He can't help himself from being like, she's bloodthirsty.
She loves it. Look at her out there turning around in a circle. She
When has
loves
she
doing
been
this.
bloodthirsty? When has she been actively hunting people down and killing them for sport? Like,
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
he's still so petty about her.
Hmm.
Cal once again worries what will happen when people like Aelin have access to their magic. And I know we just vented about this, and I'll try not to be like, but I want to be like, what the fuck do you mean?
Yeah.
Aelin has only killed murderers
Hmm.
and people that are infected by Vogue, which you have also done.
Hmm.
Who cares if she has it? She is protecting the people more than you are. Sorry.
Well, and right now she's
Got real
putting on a
spicy.
show, and she's like, Aelin is always having to put on a show. But when you really look at her actions, like you were just saying, everything she's done has been for the greater good. Even Dorian, like she was doing that as a mercy and she gave him that minute she didn't have to spare, but she's not a monster. And again, I hate that when she has to put that mask on, he can't see her, but I guess that's what makes Rowan so different is like he can always see her.
Yeah, well, he's actually trying, and we've said this before, I will say I appreciate that Kale is looking out for the regular mortals that don't have magic or anything, like, to be fair, it would be terrifying that there's no checks against somebody with that much power,
Mhm.
but to specifically look at Aelin like she's a threat, like, you don't have to do that. It's okay to look out for the common folk and want to make sure there's checks and
Mhm.
balances, that's supposed to be democracy for us, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the way that he, like, specifically then tries to, like, target Aelin, you're like, "That's not the
Yes.
same
Well,
conversation."
I think that's why Chaol's POV is important because if you think about it, one, he represents the Muggles. He's like giving us their POV. But Aiden and Rowan are obsessed with Aelin, and but she is imperfect and flawed. So it's important for us to see both sides.
Yeah,
Like they're showing us this like they are obsessed with her, they love her. But then like who better to show your imperfect side than an ex?
people don't forget. So, like, keep her humble, you're not wrong. Aelin also represents change, and we know that Chaol oh, he hates change, he has a very hard time with change.
Well, and that's a good point because, like, look at Kale. Like, he's not the captain of the guards anymore, but he immediately went into another organized group with an organized effort and goal. Like, this man loves a
Yeah,
routine,
he
you
needs to
know?
be doing something very specific to he feels like he's protecting, makes
Yes.
him feel better. Kale has lost everything, not really his family or his title,
I
but,
mean,
I mean, I guess he's
he
lost
lost
his
his
friend
job.
Dorian. I mean, he did lose Selena because she never really existed, and
Mhm.
he definitely puts a lot of that blame on Aelin, which that's not fair, but
Yeah, I admire and I'm frustrated by Kale. Like, he's just such an interesting character, and we are at the beginning of his arc.
well, and I mean, I guess he could have been angrier about things when he fucked up with Nehemia and
Mhm.
lost Aelin the first time, or Selena, whichever you wanna look at it, but it's like he's just now mad about it. Now that she's
Right.
back and showing she doesn't care, he's like, "I'm mad."
Mhm.
While Chaol is inner monologuing, this Vogue commander bites Aelin and says, "I know what you are now, you half-breed
I would
bitch."
be worried about, like, am I infected
Yeah,
now?
but, like, that's a much bigger deal, like, you cannot be left alive now because you know too
Yes.
much. She keeps it talking until it threatens to take her to Morath itself.
Morath, because that's where the missing prisoners have been taken, like, "You're welcome, Kaol.
Yeah, she's in there, like, getting intelligence
Like,
for
just
you.
trust me." Like, there has to be a level of trust of, like, I we're on the same side.
Well, like, it's weird how again, I know we keep ranting about this, but he bounces back and forth, like, different points he's, supporting her and understanding her, and then he's being petty and angry, but, like, she's still being the bigger person and that she's working for the greater good and, like, just chill out, Kale.
Mhm.
She breaks the commander's neck, then just to
Ugh.
make sure he's dead. This is wild. Can you imagine you're watching like just like a boxing match and they're like, "You know what? Let's cut off their head." Like,
UFC or WWE.
yeah, and he takes a real turn and nobody stops her, nobody says anything. She frees one of these blades from her suit and stomps it down through this guy's neck.
Which, I mean, it's probably a sharp blade, but still, it's not just like a stomp and it's through. She is like, everyone is just watching as she stomps it through.
There's no way this blade is as fat as his neck is. Like, I'm sure with the angle, like, she is having to, like, multiple times kick through it. Like, it's gross.
Well, luckily in this dim lighting, no one seems to catch on to the stain in the sand being black instead of red.
Ooh, no one but the other Vogue that are all
Oh,
standing
they're
there with
so
straight
mad.
faces watching her do this.
Well, there's also the issue of the Valg Aelin still owes Arabin for his part in Adian's rescue. Like, she was supposed to knock this guy unconscious, not go full hereditary on it.
I mean, and of course, when she climbs out of the pit and, Arabin is mad, I don't know why she just, like she plays it off like it would not have hurt her, I don't think, to mention, like, "He bit me and knows who I am. He had to
Yeah.
die." But I guess she's still playing that irreverent protege that's
Mhm.
more like, "I don't care.
And I
He
mean, what
pissed
was I
me
supposed to
off."
do?
But then, as after she's given this little line, Arabin's like, "Aren't you the least bit curious where he buried Sam?"
And
Like,
the words are like like, he knew exactly what
it's
he was
such
doing
a
when he
low
said that.
blow.
Well, I keep saying this, but nothing comes from Arabin without a price. Like, he is the Emily Gilmore of Rifthold. This isn't something she can play off and be like, "No, I don't care." Of course she's gonna wanna know where Sam is buried. And he tells her that Sam is buried in a small graveyard by the Avery.
At least he told her the truth. Because
I
like,
know, I was worried when the first time I read this, I was like, God only knows
he
what he
gives her a
actually
little
did.
something, I guess, to keep her coming back and trusting him. He probably thought not entombing Sam at the Assassin's Keep was an insult, but we know that's not where Sam would have wanted to be anyway.
And while they're talking, Lysandra is just staring at that scar on Arabin's neck, the one that Wesley gave him, and they assume Arabin is too busy smiling at Aelin to notice. But like, if there's one thing we know about Murder Daddy, like he's always paying attention. So Arabin is seeing a lot more than
Yeah,
they're. I mean, they get a lot over on him, but he's seeing a lot more than they think too.
Aelin definitely kind of has to nudge Lysandra and be kind of like,
Hmm.
your face is telling the wrong story.
Yeah.
Focus. As she's leaving, we learn that Aelin asked Kael and Nezran there not just to watch her back, but to show how much you can't trust Arabin. Like, again,
Hmm.
look at all this show he's putting on. Look at all this
But
manipulation
it
he's
also
doing.
backfired because Kale's like, "But I got this gift. I got a Prezi of Valg."
I mean, technically, the Prezi came from Aelin, not Arabin.
Yeah.
So think on that, Kael. Just think on it for a second. But also, she wants them to see how dangerous the Volg are and that maybe they should have killed Dorian.
Mhm. And that's where we'll pick up next week with Elide learning of her witch heritage, Adian asking for Rowan's autograph, and a Lorcan jump scare in chapters 25 through 32. If you're interested in hearing what else we're reading, like I didn't already talk about it, check out our standalone book reviews. We just recorded one for A Dawn of Onyx, and we have another Reverse Harem, Power of Five,
Woo
after
woo!
that. And then, of course, Lights Out and Blood of Hercules after that. Lots
So
coming
many
up.
good things coming up for us. If you guys have time, we really appreciate the ratings and reviews so we can find more book besties.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.